Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto will have the ability to summon dragons and learn their techniques. Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. An unknown seal. October 10th. The day the Kyuubi no Yoko attacked the village and rendered it down to shambles. The day the Yondaime defeated the Kyuubi by sealing it into a newborn child. More precisely, the Yondaime's daughter, Naruto Uzumaki. The baby girl is now in a crib inside the Hokage Tower, in the Hokage's office. Sitting in the Hokage's desk is none other than the newly reinstated Sandaime Hokage. Right now, he is cursing his successor, leaving him with all this shit he left behind. The civilian council is more demanding than ever. The people are scared. The shinobi forces are at its lowest. And he left his daughter in his care. The old man is now sitting in his desk figuring out what to do with her. He can tell the village about her status as a container for the Kyuubi and tell them the Yondaime's last wishes. But there are a few flaws with the Yondaime's last wishes. Why? The people are scared of the Kyuubi and feared it. They won't see her as a hero the Yondaime wished for, but nothing other than the Kyuubi itself. If he follows with that request, then his daughter will know nothing other than pain, sorrow, sadness and loneliness. It will most likely to result making her life a living hell. The Yondaime had too much faith in his village. Jeez. I leave the village for a few days and the village is crumbled down. What the hell happened here, sensei? A man with long spiky white hair climbed through the window. The Kyuubi attacked just a while ago, Jiraiya. Your student had to seal it into his own daughter. He motioned to the crib on his left. I need you to overcheck the seal and see if it works. He just had to make sure. Not that he had any faith in the Yondaime's sealing. His daughter A. He moved over to the crib and can see a blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby girl. She has her father's hair and eyes. He looked her over even more and didn't find anything that relates her to Kyuubi. That's strange. What's strange? Gaining the attention of the Hokage. She doesn't have any of the Kyuubi's characteristics. The old man just looked at him as if he'd grown a second head. All Jinchuriki have characteristics of the demon they contain, and she doesn't have anything that relates her to the Kyuubi. Maybe it has something to do with the seal. The old man said, hoping that the Kyuubi isn't controlling the child. Jiraiya checked the child's stomach and was awestruck at what he is seeing. This isn't the seal he designed. The seal he is seeing that is shaped like a pentagon and had many circles and squares inside it, obviously seals, but nothing he has ever seen. At each end of the pentagon-shaped seal had the kanji of water, fire, wind, earth and lightning. They all interlock into the middle and had another kanji of darkness. They all had the color of its own element and inside the pentagon-shaped seal had the color of red. Must be the Kyuubi's chakra, but what kind of seal is this? It looks like the pentagon seal is trying to diminish Kyuubi's chakra completely, and I have never seen anything like this before. Not even the forbidden sealing had anything like this on it. Whatever it is doing its job perfectly. Well, old man. You got nothing to fear. The Kyuubi is sealed up and the seal is working perfectly. Jiraiya said, not wanting to scare the old man about a different seal on the child. So what are you going to do with her? I thought about telling the village about her status and telling them about the Yondaime's wishes. Jiraiya was about to advise against that. But decided not to go along with that. Bad choice, old man. The village is most likely to tear her apart. Jiraiya knew about his student's wishes and his stupidity. He cared too much for the villagers' safety and not the safety of his own daughter. So what are you going to do with her? And don't say take her with you. I don't know anything about looking after a child, especially if they are a newborn. He named you her godfather and Kushina named Tsunade as her godmother. Since you can't look after a newborn child and Tsunade is not here, then I have no choice other than to send her to an orphanage. Telling the village of her heritage will most likely have assassins after her, and I will not have that. It would be best if I give her her mother's name. Jiraiya nodded in agreement. Jiraiya, I want you to find Tsunade and tell her about her godchild. I just hope she decides to take her and raise her as her own. Yeah, if she comes back and takes her as her one, then she will take her outside of the village. She won't stay long after what happened to her fiancé and little brother. The aged shinobi nodded and knew that the woman is suffering with her loss. They've heard the news of this and don't press her into raising little Naruto here. If she doesn't wish to raise her, then I will do what I can to make her happy and a strong kunoichi. The Toad Sage nodded and left the room with one more glance at the little girl in the crib. I just hope that seal will hold out. That is something I will have to figure out what it is. He left via window and started his search for a possible mother with super strength and one hell of a temper. He just hopes that he will survive when he finds her. But the old man, he had his pipe in his mouth that is unlit, knowing that a child is in the facility. He picked up the girl and went to deliver her to the orphanage personally and tell the village about the Kyuubi's demise with many things left out. If anyone had the ability to see in minds like the Yamanaka and used it on little Naruto Uzumaki, they would see a major battle inside the mindscape of Naruto Uzumaki. What is fighting inside her mind? None other than the Kyuubi no Yoko and other 6 large unknown figures. Why they are fighting? Don't know. All that is known to the Hokage is that the little girl in his arms is sleeping peacefully and inside of her is a raging battle. The actual birth of a hatchling. It's been 6 years since Jiraiya has searched for Tsunade. Well, more like 3 years actually. Jiraiya has given up searching for Tsunade after 3 years and talked the old man into raising his goddaughter himself, and he thought that it would be now easier for him to look after the little tyke. The old man thought that he was taking up his duty for looking after his student's child, so he allowed it, and if he couldn't find Tsunade, then might as well make Jiraiya look after the little girl Naruto. The people that say that looking after a little girl is easy, they need to have a Rasengan shoved up their asses. The little girl was a stamina freak and hyperactive and eager to learn. The last one he was thankful for. Jiraiya didn't spend most of his time doing research, but used his time to look after little Naruto. Naruto has taken a liking into learning the ninja arts when she turned 5 years old and Jiraiya has started training her. She was having a hard time learning some taijutsu forms and styles. It seems like she wasn't attuned into using them, so he let her develop her own. She took some time practicing her stances her body was doing and in time she developed her own style. The style she used was very familiar to Jiraiya. Why? Because that was the style her mother used. The dragon stance. That style has given Naruto's mother the name of the Crimson Dragon. She developed her own stance by adding fire manipulation in her dragon stance with different katas and created her own. All Jiraiya remembers is that he stopped peeking at Kushina after he witnessed the full power of her taijutsu. Anyways, after that he started teaching her chakra control. All went well with the leaf holding technique and he decided to hold off her training. It seems that she is learning things a bit too fast. That is all great and all after she turned 6 years old and he found Tsunade. Damn it. Who knew that her seal is acting up? It should off hold until she dies. Naruto has developed a high fever, her eyes have swollen, her breathing is struggling, and her ear is infected. Jiraiya has looked up the seal when he was both looking after Naruto and searched for any piece of information on the seal she has on her stomach. It turns out that the seal is causing all this and the seal is a bit different from 6 years ago. All the kanji of fire, water, earth, wind, lightning, and darkness have been replaced with the kanji for light. Whatever the changes of the seal have caused, it is causing harm to Naruto. From the look of the seal the red chakra is disappearing and he began to wonder if this seal is killing the Kyuubi or is it something else. Jiraiya just groaned at his predicament. He was supposed to look after and he did everything he could to raise her. He even held off doing his research for Kami's sakes. That doctor better hurry getting here. He couldn't lose his student's daughter to a sickness. He remembered the times she scared the daylights out of him with her little pranks. He remembered the first time she called him Jiraiya-sensei or just Senin without the iro or pervert added. The little girl is an honorable person to people she thinks is worth it and he was one of them. From that day forward he concentrated on raising Naruto into a powerful kunoichi. Once this passes, I'm going to up your training. That's when the door was knocked a few times. Speak of the devil. He went to answer the door to let the doctor in. That's when he got a good look at the doctor and her assistant. You. Both the doctor and Jiraiya said at the same time. Damn it pervert. We are not your damn housemaids. The doctor said which Jiraiya recognizes as Tsunade. The big is proof enough. I mean who in the elemental nations have that are bigger than Tsunades? Seriously, who have bigger than Tsunade? I actually have someone who needs a Dr. Tsunade. Jiraiya said hoping to calm down Tsunade. Really now, does she need a shot so she won't get any disease from you? Tsunade said turning away and heading out the door with her assistant in tow. This is serious Tsunade, she's my goddaughter. Jiraiya said at a serious tone that stopped Tsunade in her tracks. Goddaughter? Jiraiya motioned her and her assistant inside the room to check on the little tyke. When she entered the bedding area she instantly went into doctor mode when she seen the condition the little girl is in. Jiraiya, who exactly is this child? She questioned while doing a medical jutsu to heal her swollen throat while her assistant went to get a cloth and water to cool down her fever. Naruto Uzumaki, she is my student's daughter and Jinchuriki of Kyuubi no Yoko. She is my goddaughter and you are her godmother. Jiraiya said dropping a world-killing bomb on Tsunade. Who made me her godmother? Tsunade said while she moved on to girl's ear infection. That would be Kushina. He watched as Tsunade's assistant re-soaked the cloth and places it on her forehead. Why didn't you come look for me? Tsunade finished with healing the swollen eyes, then moved towards Jiraiya, ready to give him a beating for not searching for her. I did. For 3 years I searched for you and every time I got close to you, you vanished. Tsunade stopped herself from beating the pervert to a pulp. Tsunade remembered when she felt someone was searching for her and thought they were department collectors and it turned out to Jiraiya. I guess I can take her off your hands now that you have found me. She can at least hold her promise with Kushina. That won't be necessary, Haim. The old man has given me custody to raise and train her to become a ninja. Jiraiya got that feeling to run away and hide in some cave far away, and these feelings have saved his life many times in his ninja career. You can't be serious about raising her. Do you know anything about raising a girl, and you probably spend more time doing your so-called research than spend your time looking after Naruto. Tsunade was right about a few things, but insulting him about doing his research than raising Naruto is just going too far. And a matter of fact, I have been teaching her personally and not once did I go do my research. Jiraiya countered. Yeah, he did sometimes do research, but when Naruto is doing her personal training herself. He found out that she really is independent when developing her own taijutsu styles. That's a load of bull and good job raising her when she is this sick. Hell will freeze over when Jiraiya does something that is more important than his research. Unknown to them, a place that was once a scorching inferno is now a blizzard Arctic. I've been raising her just fine until her seal acted up and was probably the cause of her condition. Jiraiya showed Tsunade her seal, and the seal was starting to dissolve itself. What the? Naruto's mindscape. Naruto started to stir when she felt cold water dripping down on her and cold winds. She opened her eye and felt the ground shaking. She looked up and sees an old-fashioned house she's seen that rich traditional people live in. I might as well go inside. Naruto said to herself as she felt the rain and hail beat down on her. She looked to her left and sees a Mount Yon that looks like a volcano is erupting and burning the land. Good thing I'm far away. She looked further left and sees a rocky plain that is decaying. Weird. She looked on her right and sees a raging ocean with many whirlpools and maelstroms. The waves were huge to her, but aren't huge enough to reach the high cliff the house is on. And all around her is a storm that is dropping both hail and water, and of course lightning is going off in the distance. This place is really weird. Once she entered the house she easily recognizes it as a place those high clans people live in, the rice paper walls and doors with open windows. She can see the wooden floor is polished smooth and she can see many empty shelves on the walls. The wall has a message that looks like a motto and Naruto read it. Control yourself, let others do what they will. This does not mean you are weak. Control your heart, obey the principles of life. This does not mean others are stronger. Wow, that's really deep. Naruto thought and sees another message beside it that is labeled as rules. Focus to train and condition the body. Be righteous and uphold your honor. Respect your parents, honor your teacher. Treat others with honesty, treat your friends with loyalty. That sounds right. Naruto didn't know that someone else was following her rules of life, and Naruto continued to look around the house and sees something that she should have noticed from the moment she entered the house. Naruto didn't notice a woman drinking tea in the middle of the room sitting on a pillow next to a tea table. She was wearing one of those fancy expensive kimonos. It was white with red leaves decoration and a red obi. Naruto recognizes that she was moderately developed and you can see the curves the kimono shows and the slender arms and lightly pale skin. Her hair went down to her thighs if she was standing up and it was a shiny white color. Naruto couldn't see any makeup other than the red eyeliner on her face. I've been waiting for you Naruto, please have a seat and enjoy the tea. The woman sounded calm that made you loosen up and made up feel safe. Like a mother. Naruto notices her eyes were like snow with a slit like a cat in her opinion. Who are you and where am I? Naruto asked while she took a seat on a pillow and looked carefully at the tea. She never had tea before. I have many names, but you can call me Tia-sen or Tia for now and we are in your mind. The woman now named Tia took a sip of her tea while taking in Naruto's appearance. I can see her transformation is starting to show. Tia thought as Naruto's hair took a color of white that was once blonde and her calm sky blue eyes changed to a sharp piercing blue. Naruto didn't notice these changes or the other changes that is happening. Well, that's what happens when I stay inside her. If the others stayed inside her, she might have bright blue hair or flaming red hair or electrifying yellow hair. Tia thought of what she would look like if the others were inside her. My mind. Tia shook out of her thoughts and remembered the little hatchling in front of her. Yes, this is your mind. As you can see from outside it that it is really hectic right now. Tia said not telling her about the raging battle that happened for 6 years inside her. It took 6 years to fight that thing and they had to summon me to finish it off. Inwardly she groaned at her predicament. They should at least summon me from the start. They probably wanted to have the girl to themselves. That is my mind. Naruto asked while pointing outside. There is no way that I am that disturbed or insane. So that's how she is putting it. Close, but close enough. Tia had to hold in her laugh at the little girl's claim of her mind. Is there any way I can fix my mind? Naruto said while doing the forbidden puppy dog eyes jutsu. Sorry girl, I've witnessed this jutsu many times in my life that it no longer affects me. Tia thought while thinking if Naruto was ready to fix the disaster outside. There is a way to fix it, but it will be a difficult path. How? Please tell me. Naruto pleaded to the woman. You have to master the 5 elements to calm your mind. Tia said while Naruto was giving the look that said what the hell are you talking about? The 5 elements are wind, fire, water, earth, and lightning. You get this so far? Yeah, but why would I need to master the elements, and why is this connected to my mind? Naruto questioned and wondered who exactly this person is. But question. As you seen outside, the wind is creating hurricane-level winds, lightning going off every second, the volcano erupting and destroying the land, the earth is decaying, and the ocean is raging. To stop these you must master or have a level of control to cease the decaying earth, stop the volcano, and calm the winds, you understanding so far? Tia explained. Damn that Kyuubi. He did as much damage he could inflict to the girl's control of the elements. So, you're saying I need to master the elements to calm my mind? Tia nodded her head. But there is a problem, you won't be able to master the elements. In fact, no one can master the elements. Tia said, waiting for the hatchling to burst the bubble. What? Are you saying that I will be insane for the rest of my life? Naruto shouted and panicked about the part being insane. Even she isn't insane, but she's a child, they usually misunderstand things. First, you are not insane. Tia said, calming the little girl a bit. Secondly, you will need help from the other dragons to master their element. This got Naruto's attention. Dragons? Yes, there are 5 element dragons that will help you master their element. Tia said, and wondering if she should drop the bomb yet. Should I tell her that the 6 element dragons were battling Kyuubi inside her for 6 years and summon me just a few minutes before you arrive here? Tia thought of the outcome if she told her that they were leaking their chakra into her system as much as they can while fighting Kyuubi. No. It's too soon to tell her about them, and I should hold of information about the 6th dragon. Not to mention about me. How do I get them to help me master the elements? Naruto said with confidence in her eyes. Just focus your mind and condition your body. In other words, train yourself to control an element to a certain level that I think is good enough until you take the test. Tia said while taking out a scroll that was hidden under the table. It's been so long since someone will sigh this. This is the summoning scroll for dragons. This scroll is different from the other scrolls that are known in your village. This scroll has 6 boss dragons. To summon the 5 elemental dragons you must pass the test. What is this test? Do I have to fight the bosses? Naruto asked. The test is to see how you are able to fight in a battle against the tyrant dragons. Tia remembered when she sealed those dragons away for breaking their rules. All of the rules. If you are able to defeat a tyrant dragon, then the elemental dragon will allow you to summon them. Once you summon the boss dragon with a certain element, they will give you a fraction of their power to you. That's how they will help me master the elements. Tia nodded her head. What about the 6th dragon, and why is that one not an elemental dragon? The 6th dragon won't be available to you until you defeat the 5 tyrants and have a fraction of the elemental dragon's power inside you, and the 6th dragon will have to see if you're worthy enough to control him. Tia remembered how stubborn that bastard of a dragon is. If I know him well, he will do everything he can to make Naruto fail, but he is honorable and he will keep his word if she passes his test. Anyway, sign the scroll with your blood and that will do it. Naruto took the scroll that looked so worn out. Once open, she looked at the next entry to sign and sees a written name out that was so worn out that she could not see it. She just ignored it and signs the scroll. Okay, now what? Naruto asked as she sees Tia rolling up the scroll and put it back underneath the table. You won't be able to summon right now but later, and remember that you need to offer some of your blood to summon the dragons, okay? Naruto nodded her head while Tia continued on. Now I am going to explain to you about your new body. Tia said, waiting for the surprise expression. I see. Wait a minute, what did you do to me? There it is. Back in the hotel room. So you have been teaching her chakra control and helped her develop her own taijutsu style that Kushina had started off with. Tsunade asked while Jiraiya told her how he was raising Naruto till now. Yes, till now I will up her training with chakra control and put a weight seal on her to help her speed, stamina and endurance. Jiraiya said, not noticing Tsunade's angered look. I will not have her trained so soon at such a young age. With that kind of training she will have some problems later on with her body. Tsunade said, not wanting to have a disabled goddaughter because of the pervert's training. She needs balance in her life. She will need someone to help her become a woman too. How will she have a family if all she knows about is being a ninja? Well, you can teach her some of that. Hell, you can teach her some medical jutsu if she's interested. Jiraiya bargained with Tsunade and he knows that going against her is like taking Kakashi's mask off. Once she's strong enough I will be taking her back to Konoha to become a ninja. You are not taking her back to Konoha. Tsunade said, remembering that she lost her loved ones because of that village. So, you are going to take her away from her home against her will. Tsunade shut up when he said that. Naruto wants to go back to the village when she gets strong enough. She said, I will become strong enough to protect my village from anyone and I will become the next Hokage. Naruto said. It is her dream to become the Hokage. Jiraiya said when he remembered when she said that when she took her out of the village when he first adopted her. That village will get her killed. Jiraiya. It killed the 4th Hokage. Your prized student. Tsunade pleaded to Jiraiya in hopes of not taking her back to the village. That may be so, but my student sacrificed himself to save his village. Jiraiya knew how blinded he was with his village and didn't know about the after effects of the battle. He sacrificed his daughter to protect that village. How one man seals a demon to his own child is beyond Tsunade's understanding. Yes, I know that and I think I know why. Tsunade had that look that says explain or die and Jiraiya recognizes that look. Minato sealed the Kyuubi in her for a reason. He knew that there is someone that is interested in her from the moment he sealed the Kyuubi in her. Jiraiya looked at Naruto, more precisely, where her seal used to be. Who exactly would be interested in Naruto? Tsunade looked down at the little girl and notices her new look. What the hell happened to her? Naruto's mindscape. After Naruto had her fit, she started to calm down, much to Tia's relief. So what did you do to me? Naruto asked the same question she asked before, but a bit calmer than before. How am I going to explain that she is a living descendant that used to have dragon blood in their veins and tell her that I used the Kyuubi's chakra to make that blood as strong as it was a long time ago? Tia thought a way to put it to her understanding. Actually your body had done the changes itself. Tai thought out. Just tell her it is a bloodline. That usually works. Why what now? Naruto asked a bit confused. Their bloodline activated and I am here to help you with your changes. That would explain the disaster outside and the many empty shelves in this room. Tai explained hoping Naruto will buy that. So what exactly is this bloodline called? Naruto asked buying the bloodline story. It doesn't have a name, but it relates to dragons. Naruto started to listen into her explanation of her bloodline. Your skin has become like a dragon's. The skin molecules have become scale-like to match a dragon. That would mean that it will become hard to cut your skin, but it is not impenetrable, so you better not rely on it, hoping that a blade won't cut your skin. The older you get the stronger your skin will become. So my skin is like hard to cut. Yes, think of your skin as armor and there are weapons and ways to go around that armor. So you better learn to avoid getting hit and not rely on it. Naruto nodded her head in acknowledgement. The next one is your senses. You can smell things no one else can smell and hear things that no one else can hear and you can sense people from great distances with practice. She nodded again. The next one is your eyes. What about me eyes? Naruto asked when Tai just left that part hanging. Let's just leave that for later until you're old enough to use it. Your next one is the one you will need the most, the control of the elements. Naruto really started to listen to this conversation. As you know that you are able to use all 5 elements and let's not get to light and dark just yet. Once you are able to master these elements, you can use the sub-elements. Sub-elements. The ability to combine 2 elements, like combine earth and fire to get metal, wind and earth to get sand, water and earth to get wood, wind and lightning to get storm, water and wind to get ice, earth and lightning to get crystal, fire and water to get steam, and wind and fire to get plasma. Tai explained to Naruto about sub-elements. It will take her years to use all of those, and she will be 132 once she masters at least 4 of them, and that's until she masters the 5 elements, and that usually takes approximately 60 years. Should I tell her she will stop aging once she turns 18? Nah, I want that to be a surprise. Tai thought and Naruto had stars in her eyes when she heard she could learn sub-elements. I will be able to learn those. Naruto still had stars in her eyes. Yes, because of this bloodline, you will be able to control those 5 elements a lot easier. Tai thought on how it took her ancestor years to master all the elements and he was over 500 years old back then. I just hope she won't make the same mistake he made once he mastered them all. Anyways, you are about to wake up no so you better start your training to become the strongest you can be. Oh, do a summon once you get the chance. Tai said to the girl that has started to fade away. Right, I will become the strongest Kunoichi in my village and become the next Hokage. Naruto said before she faded away. Tai can only smile at the girl's attitude and stood up from her seat and walked to the nearest window that has a view of a valley. It took us 1,000 years to fix that man's mistake. He started to have a god complex that we had to seal away your ancestor bloodline and you are the last one of your clan. She looked over the valley to see what is left of the Kyuubi. You putted up a good fight, but you lived out your purpose. I thought how she had to use Kyuubi's chakra to release Naruto's bloodline abilities and get rid of the Kyuubi itself. I think the humans call it killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Back to the hotel room. So you have no idea why her hair is white or why her skin is getting hard. Tsunade said as she finished doing a diagnosis on Naruto's changes. It's probably a bloodline. That would explain why she has a body fever that turned her skin hard as a rock. Jiraiya said. I guess. She heard Naruto stirring in her sleep and she started to wake up. She yawned and did some stretches and made some pop noises. That's the spot. She said after she made a pop sound from her neck. How long was I out Jiraiya? She asked when she got the sleep out of her. You were out for a few days kid. You had a high fever with some infection in your ears and a swollen throat. Jiraiya said while handing Naruto a glass of water which she instantly gulped down. Who's the broad? Naruto asked, not noticing the drop of temperature or the tick mark on the so-called broad's head or the whimpering woman and pig or Jiraiya getting ready to leap out of the window. Naruto felt like she needed to write her will but didn't know what to write when she heard knuckles cracking in the direction of the broad. "Who are you calling broad, brat?" The broad said with a huge amount of malice in her voice while cracking her knuckles. "I was just asking your name, no need to get offended." Naruto said, getting of the bed, but she was actually getting ready to run for her life and the tick mark on the broad's head that is shouting charge was a good sign to her to get the hell out of the room and Jiraiya was smart enough to grab her and shunshin out of the room. "Get back here, you damn brat." The raging broad said while her assistant and pig were whimpering at the feel of the killing intent she was leaking off. "In a safe distance. I don't know if you are the bravest kid I know or you are still having a fever." Jiraiya said as he slumped down against a tree after escaping Tsunade's wrath. "Who was she anyways?" Naruto asked as she slumped down next to Jiraiya after she felt that wave of killing intent. "That my child is a woman you will be running away from the rest of your natural life called Tsunade." Jiraiya said as he looked down at the girl. He will start increasing her training. "And who was the other woman and why was she holding a pig?" Naruto thought that she was strange for holding a pig. "That was her assistant named Shizune and the pig is their pet called Tauntaun, I think." He didn't mind answering her questions. "She is still learning." "I see." She stood up and went to a clearing. "Hey sensei." Jiraiya looked up to Naruto. "What are the hand seals for the summoning jutsu?" Naruto asked. "Why do you want to know?" It wouldn't hurt to show her or ask. She didn't sign any contract so it wouldn't hurt to show her. "Just wondering." Naruto said innocently. "Alright, here are the seals." Jiraiya showed Naruto the seals and she practiced them over and over until she felt she was ready. "Okay, let's give it a shot." She bit her thumb and did the hand seals and slams her palm to the ground. "Summoning jutsu. That's not possible without a contract." Jiraiya said while his mouth was fish-like. The smoke spread out and they were waiting for something to appear. Naruto knew it was a dragon but didn't know which one until it showed itself. A lizard-shaped dragon Dracula rise its way out of the smoke and Naruto and Jiraiya just face faulted to the floor by this dragon's appearance. It was a female white lizard-sized dragon with grey fins that went from its head down to its spine to its tail and had a flowing whisker and small horns and silver-slitted eyes. "The great and powerful Tiamat has been summoned and is ready to take on some action. Just say the word and I'm there." She motioned her hands to a direction to show that she will be there. "Excuse me?" Naruto asked nicely to get the dragon's attention. "No, hold there girl, let me finish. Anyone who harms my summoner, vengeance will be mine." She balled her fist and shook them in the air to show something related to anger and then she started to grrr at something. "Hey!" Naruto yelled at the little dragon and got its attention. "Who are you?" "Sorry about that, it's just been so long since I was summoned to this realm. It's me Tai." She went up to Naruto and snaked its way up to her shoulder. "Tai, that woman in my mind is you." Naruto said, shocked that she had this lizard-shaped dragon inside her. "Yep. The only way for me to be outside of you is to be in this small form." She motioned to her small hatchling body. "So you had to transform into a lizard to help me." She started poking the lizard. "Dragon. Dragon, dragon, I don't do that tongue thing." And so she did the tongue thing. "Reeked." Naruto said, looking neutral. "So you had the dragon summoning scroll." Jiraiya decided to make an entrance after he shook of his shock of Naruto summoning a dragon. "Yeah, this is Tai. She was the one that was telling me about my bloodline." Naruto said as she told the story of how she met the dragon Tai. "So you have those abilities, right?" Jiraiya asked as he was told about her changes and her goal. "Well, looks like we can start with the heavy stuff with you training since your new body can handle the strain." "Yup, and I will become a powerful Kunoichi in no time." Naruto said as she pumped up her arms as Tai moved towards Jiraiya and motioned him to come closer. "The Kyuubi is no more." That was all she said and that was all Jiraiya needed to hear to calm his nerves. "Hey Naruto, let me show you a trick that you are able to do." She went on the little girl's shoulder. "Take a deep breath and hold it and keep it there until you have this burning feeling in your lungs and release it." Naruto did as she was told and until she felt the burning sensation she released her breath. What happened next freaked her out. She breathed out fire and burned the area down in front of her. She shut and covered her mouth with her hands after she breathed out that lung of fire out and Jiraiya can't see smoke coming out of her mouth and nose. This will be a lot fun teaching her how to learn her dragon abilities. Tai thought as she observed the damage Naruto caused. "Yup, I can finally be myself and not be a royal dragon." The tyrant dragons. It's been another 5 years since Naruto unleashed her flames of fury to the forest and started her training. True to Jiraiya's word, he began increasing Naruto's training. She started out with those weight seals on her clothing which was difficult for her at first. Then Tia started showing her how to manipulate chakra and element chakra. It was going slow for her because this was all new to her, but she started to pick up on it. After her 4th year Tia had stated that Naruto is going to need a sword. Jiraiya just bought her a sword and told her to do diagonal, vertical and horizontal swings 1,000 times, much to Naruto's dismay for this kind of training. Her arms hurt like they were ready to fall off after that. She got used to it after her 7th week. When she was 7 she had a talk with Tsunade's apprentice Shizune. She was like a big sister to Naruto and Tsunade was never around the time, she spent most of her time drinking or gambling, completely missing meeting Naruto. Shizune gave Naruto a crash course on medical jutsu and the human anatomy. She is such a good teacher. Naruto is able to control her dragon breath a lot easier and is able to do it quickly and powerful. Because of breathing out fire, Naruto has a high affinity to use fire and is at master level already. She obtained a certain amount of control with all elements but an extremely high control over water. She can materialize water out of thin air using the hydrogen molecules in the air and turn it into water. She still needs much more concentration to materialize water out of thin air and it shows that she has reached her limits in understanding water manipulation. Her skin is highly developed. The only thing that can hurt her is one of Tsunade's punches and she experienced one of her punches. After that punch she really started to respect Jiraiya for surviving such a brutal punch. There are a few other things that could harm her like high-level techniques, chakra-empowered attacks or element manipulation attacks. Jiraiya had to beat it into Naruto to not rely on her skin and avoid all attacks that are avoidable and pray that the attack that would hurt won't hurt her too much. Her Kenjutsu is mediocre and up if you had to rate it and she isn't quite used to using a sword right now. Her Genjutsu is non-existent. Jiraiya hasn't started teaching her Genjutsu, he only taught her how to cancel them and if that doesn't help, Tia is practically inside her so she could help Naruto out. All in all, Naruto is at about high Chunin right now. Her Taijutsu is Chunin, but her strength is just monstrous, but not Tsunade monstrous. Her chakra control is at Jonin level, and her element manipulation is at mediocre for earth and lightning, high level for wind and mastery over water and fire. The clothing she is now wearing is a white battle kimono. Tai was the one who picked out the clothing. Her kimono was white with a fire pattern on the left sleeve and red leaves on the right sleeve. She had red gauntlets on both her arms. She had a mesh shirt underneath the kimono and some armored padding over her chest, but underneath the outer kimono. Her leg part of the kimono was red with the fire and leaves intertwining and had red padding on the side of her hips and battle boots on her feet and covered by the kimono. Her katana was strapped behind her back with the handle on her right side. She practically looks like she was ready for a battle and she is. And now we find the pervert, the child and dragon on a path to find a spot to meditate. Why are we in a shrine of all places? Naruto asked with a groan while she sat down in a lotus position. We are going to start your water element test, so stop complaining and start meditating. We will do the fire element test after you pass the water test and practice with the water element. Tia said as she stood in front of her. You want to watch Jiraiya? Sure, I need to see how these fights are and see how I can improve her training. Jiraiya said as he sat in front of Naruto in the same position as she is in. Brace yourself Jiraiya. If you are not in a state of mind to travel to another mind you might die. Tai said as she started chanting to bring Jiraiya to Naruto's mind. What? Jiraiya panicked when he heard the die part and his mind went into Naruto's mindscape. The place looked a little better in 6 years. It's not hailing or raining that's for sure. The ocean is still raging without the whirlpools and maelstroms and hurricanes. The wind has settled down, the volcano was just smoking, the lightning is going off a couple of minutes of each flash and the earth has stopped decaying and not shaking. All in all, it is better the last time Naruto has been here. Wow. This place is calmer than it was 5 years ago. Naruto said as she surveyed her mind. Really, what did it look like back then? Jiraiya asked wondering if her mind couldn't get worse than this. Think of the apocalypse. In your case, think what would happen if Tsunade unleashed all her chakra into one punch. Naruto said as both she and Jiraiya shuddered at the thought of the power of that punch, but Naruto shuddered at what it would feel like, she didn't know that Jiraiya thought the same thing. So what happens now? You start the test. Naruto and Jiraiya turned around to see the little lizard, but they see the woman in Naruto's mind. Jiraiya instantly put Tia's figure into photographic memory. I see he has his moments. Tia motioned to Jiraiya who is sizing her up. It happens once in a while, but he still does those books he writes. Just give him some time, he'll stop I hope. Naruto said saying the last part to herself and Naruto looked at Tia closer to see her holding a katana. What's with the sword? This wonderful blade? She asked playfully and handed it to Naruto. That is one of my personal favorite blades I have. You will have to figure out her name on your own. Tia said to Naruto. That is if she chooses you as her master. Tia thought as Naruto looked at the katana further to see that the sheath is silver with a white dragon on it, the guard is shaped as a dragon head, and the handle is a white with crimson diamond patterns going down. This will be your sword if you survive the tester battle, whatever you call it. She hands the katana to Naruto and she unsheathes it. It was beautiful in her eyes. It was just like her sheath and it also reflects a piercing light. So what exactly are these tests? Jiraiya called out once he finished putting Tia's body into memory. Like I said before, they are battles to test your skills in the elements or just a plain out fight. You will be going up against a tyrant dragon. They are not as strong as the boss dragons, but they are strong and have special abilities. Tia started walking towards the rock slopes next to the ocean. The dragon you are fighting is not really a dragon in my point of view. What is a dragon in your point of view, and why aren't we heading towards the volcano? I do have near master over fire as well. Naruto asks as she ties and straps the katana to her back and follow Tia towards the ocean. Dragons are creatures that can fly in my books and must follow our rules. This creature doesn't know how to fly, but it is actually quite powerful on land. The only reason it is a dragon, because of its special ability. The reason we are near the ocean is because you will need the water element to take the fire test. Tia said as she stops in the middle of the rocky plain and she motioned for Jiraiya to step back and Naruto had to agree with gaining more control over water and use it against the fire tyrant. Getting burned by fire leaves a rough rash. What kind of special ability does this water tyrant dragon have? Naruto asked a bit wary of what she is about to fight. Ai put her left hand up while channeling chakra in her left hand and she started to condense the chakra into a ball in her hand. If you pass this test, you will receive its techniques, but I am afraid you won't acquire its special ability, because you'll find out. Tia said and shot her left hand towards the ocean and the condensed chakra made contact against the water. All was quiet. Word of advice Naruto, aim for the body. Tia said as she left the battleground. Naruto unsheathed her new katana and stood in a ready stance. She waited and waited until she sees something coming out of the ocean. It got closer to land and Naruto can finally see its head pop out of the water and she has to admit. It was the weirdest dragon she has ever seen. Its jaw was disfigured and was able to open at impossible depth and it has the big ass eyes she has ever seen and its skin was dark purple. Then its body showed its body and it was big. The damn thing's neck was long and so was its tail. If she had to guess the size of it, then she has to guess it was the size of a two-story building. Naruto looked over to Tia with a look that says please tell me you're joking and much to her dismay, she sees her shake her head no. She looked over to Jiraiya and can see him with the same look she had. What the hell is that thing? Jiraiya said freaking out of the size and the looks of the creature. That is the water tyrant dragon Hydra. Tia said as she watched the battle was going to start. Naruto was taking steps back as the creature was towering over her and blocking whatever light the land was giving. She was already regretting to take this test. Naruto said nervously as she did some rapid hand signs. Water style. Water piercing dragon missile. Naruto called out and this water dragon was different from the normal water dragon missile. Its nose and mouth were pointing outward like a spike. It was one of the techniques that Tia taught her when she had some control over water and it is much stronger than normal water dragon missiles. The attack slammed into the disfigured creature and left it unharmed but disorientated. Oh come on. Naruto said in annoyance and avoided the creature's onslaught of claw swipes and lunged bites. Keep it up girl. Jiraiya yelled on the sidelines watching Naruto running away from the creature while avoiding attacks. The dragon Hydra did a lunge bite and Naruto sidestepped it and sliced its head off. That a girl. You have this test in the bag. Jiraiya yelled and walked towards Naruto until he was standing in front of her. I told her to aim for the body. Tia said sighing at Naruto's unknown predicament. Thanks Jiraiya she stopped in mid-sentence as she heard a twitching noise behind her and Jiraiya started to walk backwards. This can't be good. Naruto turned around to see the twitching corpse of Hydra and it started to spasm greatly then much to her dismay, Hydra stood up. How the hell is that possible? Naruto groaned as she looked over Jiraiya to see him running for the hills. Naruto just sweat drop at her sensei. He ditched me. The twitching noise was getting louder. Hydra's body was standing up and the part of the neck where Naruto sliced off started bubbling. And much to her dismay, Hydra regenerated its head with an extra head beside the original. Seriously? What the hell? Naruto started running as both heads tried to take a bite out of her. Is that its special ability? Jiraiya asked as he regained his breath from running away. Sadly yes. Hydra has the ability to regenerate its head. Tia watched Naruto jumped on one of Hydra's head and impaled its head with her sword and jumped off as one took a bite out of her, but it took a bite out of the dead head. At least she got one. Jiraiya was about to celebrate as one of Hydra's heads ripped off the dead head and two more took its place. This will be difficult for her. Jiraiya said as Tia nodded and couldn't help but feel worried for Naruto. As the battle continued and Naruto continued on to avoid the onslaught of 5 heads. Soon she started to cut heads off to test out its regeneration capabilities. Naruto continued on to slice off more heads, but more kept popping out of the body and it somehow was able to fit on that body. God damn it kid. Enough with the head slicing. Jiraiya yelled out to Naruto getting a bit sick of watching the dragon regenerate its heads multiple times. Naruto took some distance away from Hydra. That's it. She stood in front of them keeping a distance away from them. No more little nice girl. She took in a huge breath and unleashed her biggest dragon breath she has ever breathed and aimed it at the mutated dragon. Hydra was engulfed by the flames completely as it started to flail around in the flames as its skin was peeling off. Ha! How do you like that? The flames started to die off as Hydra was still standing and looking much more deformed than before. Huh, that was a bad idea. Naruto said as she held in her stomach as best she can when she seen the sight of the creature. She noticed that the skin was practically weak. She sheathed her katana and did some rapid hand seals. Water style. Exploding water shockwave. Naruto shouted as she unleashed loads of water out of her mouth and using her water manipulation, water was materializing out of the air to create more water in the area. She figured it out. Tia said watching Naruto made water in the area and Jiraiya was wondering what she meant. Hydra is a water tyrant. It can breathe underwater, but it can't swim. Tia said as Jiraiya understood what Naruto was doing. As Naruto finished filling the area of water, she noticed that Hydra was trying to surface. Wow, it actually worked. Jiraiya and Tia face faulted at her unintentional idea. She did more hand seals. Water style. Water prison jutsu. Naruto stuck her hands at the water and willed a prison around Hydra and was surfaced with it imprisoned in the water, which it isn't able to move in. It was nice know you know what. I wish I didn't know you. Naruto did one hand seals. Water style. Water prison execution jutsu. Naruto yelled out as the water in the water prison started to crush Hydra. Soon white bubbles were covering her view and then the water prison imploded. This caused Hydra's guts and limbs to go in every direction, covering her in purple blood and guts. Yup, definitely wish I didn't know it. Naruto finally let go of her lunch when she was covered in the creature's guts. She did a water jutsu to remove the stuff. I can clean myself all day, but I feel like I will never be clean again. Naruto was about to cancel the water when she felt an aura building up in the water. Soon a water dragon surfaced from the water creating a tidal wave as it surfaced. The dragon was light blue scaled with a tan underbelly. Its fins were also light blue and its wings are long and were more like fins in a way. The dragon had two horns pointing back towards its back with two more that were connected to the jaw and were smaller than the ones on its forehead. The dragon's snout and jaw were spiked and its teeth were really sharp from where she's standing. Its eyes were bright blue and had a blue jewel on its forehead. All in all, the dragon was huge as the Hydra, but longer. Naruto was so amazed by the water dragon in front of her, she didn't notice a tsunami that was coming down on her. Oh crap. Naruto created a water prison and imprisoned herself to avoid being crushed by a giant wave. Once the tsunami went through she cancelled her water prison. You've grown since the last time I saw you. The water dragon boss said to Naruto as the dragon towered over her. Since you defeated Hydra, you can have its personal technique. What techniques is that? Naruto asked and wondered what kind of technique that deformed dragon created. I believe Tiamat will explain it to you. The water dragon looked over at the hill to see Tia and Jiraiya. I believe I didn't introduce myself. I am the water dragon boss, and my name is Leviathan. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto bowed to the dragon. At least she's showing respect to Leviathan. Tia said to herself and watched the transaction between the two. Why should she show respect to that dragon specifically? Jiraiya asked as he was drying himself off from that tsunami that hit him. Out of all the boss dragons, Leviathan is one of the strongest dragons there is. Even fighting outside of the ocean Leviathan can put up a fight. Tia said and Jiraiya just nodded. That battle with Hydra has shown me you can defeat a water dragon in water. Naruto must have heard Leviathan grumbling something about that Hydra shouldn't be called a dragon. You are able to turn an advantage to a disadvantage and fighting Hydra is a way to test you to think of this. It wasn't the first time Hydra has imploded. Wait. You mean that thing is still alive? Naruto asked and she heard Jiraiya yelling out what? Well yes. You weren't the first to take these tests and Hydra must have been defeated in many different ways. Once he was crushed by water, stabbed by water, impaled by ice, and once he drowned from water. Naruto wanted to ask how a water dragon drowned in water and Leviathan saw that question coming. The person that was fighting Hydra just filled him with water until he drowned. Even I'm still wondering how it happened. Anyways, I believe you were fighting for this. Leviathan soon started to glow in a bright blue light and began to shrink. Soon Leviathan stood as tall as Jiraiya. Leviathan is a woman. She is wearing a battle kimono with a few differences than Naruto's. Her battle kimono is white with a water theme. The gauntlets on her arms were spiked back at the wrist and a blue jewel on the back of the hands. The chest plate is the same and the battle boots were high-heeled with a blue jewel on the shin. Another added piece of her armor was a headband. The center of the headband is a huge blue jewel and the sides pieces were pointed back like horns. Her hair is silver blue and long. Because of the headband her hair had long bangs that were on the side. She was holding her hands out towards Naruto and between the hands was a bright blue light. Take my gift and I will help you control water. woman said, and Naruto held her hand to the glowing orb of light until she was touching it. Now that you have passed the water test, Leviathan acknowledges your strength. Naruto Uzumaki is a summoner of the water dragons. Naruto was soon engulfed by the light and all of Naruto's mindscape turned white. Real world. Naruto instant woke up from her mindscape. She looked around and noticed that Jiraiya was spread eagle on the floor with drool coming out of his mouth. What happened to you? I believe that is the side effect of transferring another person's mind to another. Naruto turned to Tia who was poking the pervert. I should have told him the first time. He just needs some time to rest. As for you. You should get some rest as well. As soon as she said that, Naruto passed out. After some needed rest, Tia took Naruto from Jiraiya for some water manipulation training, leaving Jiraiya to do his research aka meeting with his spy network. It was one of the things he introduced Naruto into. If he's gone or on other business, she'll take his place during the meetings. Leviathan said something about learning Hydra's personal technique. Naruto asked Tia with a thoughtful look. Dragon split. It's not actually Hydra's technique, but the elders got this idea from him. Do a water dragon missile, but do a dragon seal after you unleash the attack. Tia instructed Naruto as she did the necessary hand seals. Water style. Water dragon missile. Naruto shouted and much to her surprise the water materialized out of thin air. She didn't need a water source to do a water attack or not much concentration. After she regained from her surprise she did the dragon seal and she watched as the water dragon split into smaller dragons and attacked multiple places. As you can see, the dragon split, like the name suggested, it splits the original technique into smaller forms and can attack multiple targets or a single target at different angles. Tia said as Naruto just watched the carnage she had created. Not to mention Leviathan is helping you control water. Wait, Leviathan is helping me control water? Naruto asked Tia who was going to explain it to her but someone else beat her to the punch. Yes, I am helping you out with controlling water. Naruto heard to her right to see some water forming into a small snake with fins that is floating in the air. Naruto had a blank look on her face. Then she released a deep sigh that is starting to become second nature to her. I'm getting help from little reptiles. Naruto muttered to herself, but the lizard and snake heard her. Then she was hit by a huge mass of water that sent her flying into a tree and continued to get hosed down by water. Leavia, I think she had enough. Tia said to the water dragon who is still willing water to hose down Naruto. Don't worry, she'll live. Leviathan said as she continued to hose her down while laughing at the girl. I hadn't had this much fun in a long time. Tia had to agree with her. They hadn't had a summoner in a long time and this summoner is turning out to be goldmine of fun. The next day, both Jiraiya and Naruto were on the road again and this time she had casual clothing which was just a white kimono with shinobi sandals and her katana is wrapped in a cloth and held on her back with her backpack. Naruto had her time practicing water manipulation and Jiraiya was writing in his notebook a bit too much. Jiraiya. Naruto said to get his attention. You've been writing in that notebook a lot lately and you already sent out a volume to the editor, so what gives? Naruto asked the writer of the Icha Icha series. Writing my next best series. He shouted with dollar signs in his eyes and Naruto used this opening to grab the notepad from his hands to read what is on it. The water dragon is keeping the princess of the water kingdom as a hostage and Naruto continued to read the notes and understood what Jiraiya is writing. You used my tests for profit. Naruto was about to burn the notepad when Jiraiya grabbed it away from her. What are you thinking? You know how much a volume costs. Jiraiya said to Naruto as she tried to take the notepad away from him. I don't care. She shouted out and decided to hell with it. She took a deep breath and that is all Jiraiya need to know what she was going to do, so he prepared to douse out a flame breath. She unleashed her flame breath, but Jiraiya doused her with water and some entered her mouth so he can prevent her from breathing fire. That was all he needed to prevent her from breathing any more fire and smoke coming out of her mouth is a sign of no more fire breaths. Tia explained to the two is that it would be difficult to breathe fire if the area is very moist or if she swallows liquids when she has her stomach burning. She took another deep breath. You can't breathe fire Naruto so just calm down. Jiraiya said to Naruto as she unleashed her breath but instead of fire it was ice. Jiraiya shrieked at the surprise attack. The ice breath landed on the ground and covered Jiraiya's legs in ice to prevent him from moving. Naruto used this time to take the notepad away. How about I give you cut off the profit? Jiraiya asked and seen her stopping from burning the notepad. How much? Naruto asked eyeing the Sannin carefully. 20% and you know how much I get off my books. Jiraiya said and saw her thinking it through. You're not going to use the original names or anything close are you? She asked him and said no. What exactly is this series is about? She said and gave him the notepad back and shatters the ice that covered his legs. It is similar to your tests, I'm just using the dragons as a reference and the main character is a woman. That stopped Naruto in her walk. Please tell me you're joking. Naruto said not believing what she is hearing. A female warrior slaying a dragon to save a princess, isn't the warrior supposed to be male? No, I received a note from my producer and requested some girl action, and the Icha Icha series is good enough. If I was going to write something else, it would have to be girl action. Jiraiya told Naruto, who just palmed her head. Naruto just sighed and continued on along the road until Jiraiya asked a question. So when are you going to do the fire test? Jiraiya asked her. Tomorrow hopefully, Tia said I need some time to recover until Leviathan is settled in my mind. Naruto told Jiraiya and both saw water forming in front of them and Leviathan is in front of them in a small water snake form. What are you doing out here? Tia kicked me out. Livia said to the two and both wondered what she did. In Naruto's mindscape, the land is completely soaked and water is all over the place as it returned to the ocean. The house in the center of the mind is in wreck. The tiles on the roof were falling apart. The windows were shattered. The walls were a bit caved in. Inside is far worse because of the fuming woman cleaning up the place. Don't swim in the ocean I tell her, but she had to jump into the air and splash into the ocean in her dragon form. Tia said as she twisted a pillow to get rid of the water it has. The moment she entered her mind she started swimming around and making tsunamis. Tia muttered and went back to clean up what she can. Real world, I kind of let loose. Livia said a bit embarrassed. Her of all dragons shouldn't be doing childish things like splashing around in the ocean when she should be training, but all water dragons can't resist the open ocean, and that included the great Leviathan. At least I get to have some fresh air. I take it you were the one who taught the girl how to do breath ice. Jiraiya asked the water dragon who nodded to him. I wouldn't call it breathe ice Jiraiya-san, it is more like spitting ice. Livia told Jiraiya and she looked over to Naruto. What is this I hear about a water princess? She asked Naruto who groaned at the question and she pointed towards Jiraiya. Sometimes, if you want to get out of a situation when a woman thinks you did something perverted, all you need to do is point towards Jiraiya or say his name. Sometimes it is all the explanation you need. The next day in Naruto's mind, both Naruto and Jiraiya entered Naruto's mind again. Both Jiraiya noticed the lodge in Naruto's mind has some water damage, and Tai seemed a bit peeved, and Livia is avoiding eye contact with Tia, who is glaring at her. Okay Tai, what gives? Naruto asked her first charge when she noticed that Tia is glaring at Livia and the house is a complete wreck. Nothing. Tia stated and walked away, but that word is all the explanation both Jiraiya and Naruto needed, and it was the only warning they got. She is pissed. Naruto said and followed Tia with Livia and Jiraiya in tow, but those two kept a great distance away from Tia. After some walk towards the smothering mountain and much awkward silence, they had reached a rock bed that everyone can see that it was actually a lake of lava with rocks on top. Jiraiya had a hard time taking in the heat, but Naruto didn't mind the temperature. I see why I needed water manipulation. Naruto stated as Tia gathered chakra in her right hand and shot it into the lava lake. This fire tyrant is a bit different. The land began to shake. There are a few different kinds of dragons. The temperature began to be unbearable for Jiraiya and Naruto began to feel the heat. There are the wyverns, they are usually powerful dragons of us all. They are physically powerful and some can fly, but most of them are more devastating on land. What do you mean most don't fly? Naruto asked as the earth stopped shaking and the temperature stopped rising. It is because the way they fly is the use of wings. Leviathan told Naruto as Tia looked onto the rock bed. You know about wings right? Tia asked Naruto who nodded her head and began to worry. Their wings are attached to their backs, but wyvern wings are attached to their arms and sometimes their wings replace their arms. Tia explained to Naruto who looked confused. Sometimes their wings are just for show because some of them are huge as a mountain. The second time is the piscine. They are the swimmers, think of them as sharks. Naruto looked over to Leviathan. She is a hybrid of piscine and ancient dragons. Tia said as Leviathan was grinning at the part of being a hybrid. Anyways the piscine can swim in water, sand and earth, even lava. Naruto gulped hearing a piscine swimming in lava and the area she is in yeah, it is a piscine. Don't worry girl, you are fighting an elder dragon. That calmed her down. Wait an elder dragon? Naruto asked and she got her answer as the dragon showed itself. The dragon shot out of the lava lake and spread its crimson black wings and flapped to ease its landing. It landed on its hind feet and braced itself with its claws. The dragon's tail whiplash into the lake splashing the lava. It raised its long neck and gave a ferocious roar that shook the earth and hurt Jiraiya's and Naruto's ears. After it stopped roaring, Naruto took in its appearance and can see that the dragon's wings are attached to its back and nothing else. Its skin is rock smoldering crimson with a few black places and its skull has some spikes pointed backwards and it is the same size of Hydra. Naruto meet Fatalis, Fatalis meet Naruto. Tia introduced the two. So, this is the type that defeated Hydra. The dragon spoke to Naruto who was surprised that the dragon speaks. It talks. Naruto said looking over to Tia while pointing at the dragon. Of course I talk you brat. It roared at Naruto who was kind of petrified by that roar and being able to talk at the same time. But Hydra wasn't talking when we fought. Naruto countered Fatalus's remark. Hydra lost his mind a long time ago and attacks anything he sees. He is also imprisoned for life and is the only one who became a tester, even if he is insane. Fadalus said to himself, but as a dragon, it was like he was actually talking to them. A tester? Jiraiya questioned, who is sweating from the scorching heat. You didn't tell them. Fadalus looked at Tia, who felt small with Fadalus's gaze. I told them that the tyrant dragons are dragons that are against the rules. Tia said while she shrank as Fadalus glared at her. The definition of tyrant dragons is dragons that test our summoners. You were there when we changed the title. Fadalus said to Tia as she looked away and tried to remember the day the title changed. Back then. Alright, moving on to the next subject of the title, Tyrant Dragon. Leviathan said as the other dragons began to talk about the subject. We can all agree to that, we can test our summoners ourselves, then let them decide who is worthy to summon us. Fadalus said in the meeting, and he received many nods from various dragons. How about we just put the title up for dragons that test our summoners? He received many approvals. What says you, Tiamat? Leviathan looked up towards Tia and sweat drop at what she is seeing. Tiamat in her human form reading a book, completely ignoring the meeting. Leviathan just shrugged off the Imperial Dragon's laziness. She'll pass it off. Sure, whatever. Tia said as she licked her finger and turned to the next page of her book. I knew it. Naruto's mindscape. I don't remember about that meeting. Tai sheepishly scratched her back and tried to vanish, but Leviathan blocked her path. Unbelievable, leave it to an Imperial Dragon to slack off and mislead our summoners. So tyrant dragons are testers then, what about Hydra? Naruto questioned Hydra's position of water tyrant dragon. Hydra is just a brute who lost his mind and is a perfect dragon to test our summoners to use water techniques against a water dragon. Fadalus answered the question as he got tired and began to lay down, thinking this may take a while. He's got a point. You don't see warriors fighting fire with fire, or in this case water with water. Levia put in her 2 cents. Alright, let's just get this over with. Naruto said, taking a position in front of Fadalus. What am I supposed to do in this test anyways? Fadalus stood up and gave an earth-shattering roar, then got ready to pounce on the little human. Nothing much, just survive for an hour. Just survive, that's it, no hidden answer? Naruto questioned Fadalus, and he just shook his head no. Okay, on my go, Leviathan called out. Fadalus stood ready and Naruto gathered her chakra and unsheathed her katana. Go. Naruto instantly jumped to the right, just avoiding Fadalus' lung bite. She jumped over a claw and rolled on the ground to avoid the tail that almost hit her. Fadalus turned around and got ready to strike. Naruto just figured out why the fire test was difficult. It was not because of the overwhelming fire attacks, but it is because of Fadalus's ferociousness. The lung, the claw and the tail strike was just one continuous attack, and it was fast. 5 seconds and I am already reconsidering to fail this test. Naruto thought, then she did some hand seals, but Fadalus struck before Naruto could finish her seals. Naruto had to avoid the same 3 attacks. Just after Naruto reached behind Fadalus's back, she did the hand seals she need to get an edge in the battle. Water style. Exploding water shockwave. Naruto started spewing water across the battlefield, turning the magma into rocks and cooling the place down. Once that was finished, the land is soaked in water, which was a plus in her books. Like, this is going to help you out. Fadalus said while he viciously attacked Naruto and splashing the water around, completely blinding him a bit. Okay, maybe it helped her just a little. 45 seconds passed, girl. Jiraiya shouted where he was watching the fight. 45 seconds. Naruto shouted in dismay, she thought her fight was longer than that. Fadalus saw an opening, so he struck Naruto with his claws and cleaved through her, but all he struck was a water clone. The water. Fadalus roared and started unleashing an earth-melting flames around the field, but Naruto did more hand seals. Water style. Rainfall jutsu. Fadalus's attempt to get rid of the water has just been futile. I see why she needs to finish the water test first. Jiraiya said, getting the meaning of this test. It wasn't a test of strength, but it was a test of survive against a strong opponent. Actually, she could survive this test with earth, but the place was filled with magma. Leviathan said, but she was keeping an eye on Fadalus clawing his way through one water clone to another. 30 minutes through the fight. Fadalus is indeed a ferocious fighter. He figured out Naruto's attack pattern and started drawing Naruto out in the open. Naruto began to get desperate. She took in a huge breath and unleashed a stream of ice towards Fadalus's legs and arms, which could only held him still for a few seconds. Fadalus too was desperate. He whipped his tail at Naruto and she couldn't avoid it, so she used her katana to block as best she could, but the force of the tail sent her flying across the field. If that was someone else, they would have a lot of broken bones. With Naruto on the ground, Fadalus saw an opening he wasn't going to waste. He broke through the ice that froze him to the ground and lunged at Naruto and took her whole body in his mouth, thus ending the test. I guess she failed this exam. Tia said, not worried about Naruto, but Jiraiya was shocked out of his mind. Maybe she needs more training for this. She walked away from the fight, but she noticed Fatalis was thrashing around in the field. What now? Everyone looked over in the field to see Fatalis's mouth pried open and Naruto was sitting on his tongue with her sword jammed up into his upper jaw. Hey, she's holding on. Leviathan said in joy. Mudcad get out of me mouth. Fatalis muffled out with Naruto in his mouth and he felt that katana very close to piercing his brain. If he dies here, Volvagia will not let this go. You try anything then I will jam this katana up your brain. Naruto held on in Fatalis's mouth and she got a close view on what goes down there. I like to see y'all try. Fatalis muffled out completely bluffing. Yeah. Naruto bluffed. All her strength is used to holding on. Yeah. Should we stop them? Jiraiya asked pointing towards the two who were bluffing their way out of losing. Tia and Leviathan looked at each other for a second. Nah, I want to see how long this lasts. Tia said as they watched the two bickered. 5 hours later, over at the two, they calmed down and just bid their time to strike. Fatalis had to sit down with his mouth opened uncomfortably with a female human in his mouth that is starting to taste good right about now. Naruto is indeed now tired and almost drifting to sleep, but the tongue she is sitting on is keeping her awake and the rumbling noise is disturbing her. Hey Fatalis, how long has it been now? Naruto just asked and earned a very uncomfortable silence. I passed didn't I? Fatalis just grumbled and shook Naruto off his tongue and closed his mouth and spit her out. She reached in his mouth and pulled that sword out that was dangerously near killing him and set it down then fixed his jaw back in place. Yes, it appears you passed. There never has been a summoner who passed by sitting in my mouth. He looked down to see Naruto wiping slime off herself and glared at him. He just splashed some water on her to see her intensify her glare. He just chuckled. Well, I had my fun and I should be going. Say hi for me when you see Volvagia. Fatalis said just before he burst into flames. Naruto still continued to wipe that saliva off herself with the water on the ground. Damn it, this is the second time this happened. Naruto grumbled as she cleaned herself as best she can, though this is the mind she still feels the need to be cleaned. Then the volcano in her mind erupted. A huge black cloud covered the mountain with rain of fire coming down and then it came out. The fire dragon boss. The dragon burst out of the volcano and caused it to erupt violently and flew towards Naruto. Wherever it flew it left dancing flames falling to the ground and causing it to burn. Its head is covered by a metal-looking mask, its skin is black, with red flames burning and an orange underbelly, it has 3 long manes made out fire. It landed on its hands, and its long spine curled up for its legs to hit the ground, but just when it landed, the ground burned causing small eruptions. All in all, it is just as majestic as Leviathan, but with fire. It looked down at Naruto and reached up to its head to remove the metal mask. When it released the mask, it burst into flames. When the flames cleared, a human stood in its place, a woman preteen if she guessed. She is wearing a kimono colored black with red and orange flames, and her right sleeve is missing, her right arm is bandaged up, she has on a red long scarf around her neck, she has red flaming spiky hair with red eyes, the kimono ends at her thighs, and she held a metal mask in her hand. She looks like a hothead if Naruto had to guess. Wow, that was the best fight I have seen in years. Yup, a hothead. The name is Volvagia the Fire Dragon, and you can call me Volva. She started shaking Naruto's hands quite quickly and she didn't know what to do in this situation. Nice to meet you. Naruto said, not knowing what to do, and just stood there watching her. Okay, like tradition here. Volva held out her hands the same fashion as Leviathan and a bright red light appeared between her hands. I'm not much on speeches, so just accept it and we can talk later. Damn it Volvagia, the speech is custom. Leviathan yelled out. Let her go Levia, she is the free spirit type. Tia calmed Leviathan from beating up Volvagia. Naruto reached for the red light while she more like collapsed into it and disappeared from her mindscape. Volva looked over where Naruto used to be and remembered her little fight with Fatalis. He sure knows how to tire out our summoners. Real world. Jiraiya woke up after his little trip in Naruto's mind and witnessed an odd battle that started out as a dangerous fight to a debate on who can outbluff who. He looked over to see Naruto completely out of it from her mental ordeal. These fights of yours are going to be the end of you. Jiraiya said, then picked her up and took her room they rented for the night. Back in Naruto's mindscape, care to brief me in on what you taught her? Volva asked the two as they entered the new house in Naruto's mind. It didn't look like it had water damage at all. Well, I taught her how to breath fire, gave her some tips on her dragon stance, helped her with element control, and taught her some Kenjutsu stances. Tia said, recalling on how long it took to fix her Taijutsu stance. Her skin is still like a hatchling, her eyes aren't developed yet, and her strength is deadly. Jiraiya taught her some things like working on her chakra control and manipulation. He taught her some of the other element jutsu. Her Genjutsu just plain doesn't exist. Ha. Like she needs Genjutsu anyways, once her eyes develop she doesn't have to worry about Genjutsu. Volva said, earning nods from the other two. Well, I taught her how to breath ice and taught her some water jutsu like the rainfall. I was planning on teaching her the other Taijutsu stance and on more advanced sword stances. Leviathan said, thinking things through. Maybe I can throw in a few of the high-level water jutsu. So what are you going to teach her? Volva had a thoughtful look. I don't know, I didn't have a summoner in a very long time. I could teach her the dragon breath stream, the dragon claw, some fire jutsu that I know of and teach her how to summon fire with her hands. We will have to wait with her sub-element training until she works with her 5 elements first. Volva said and turned to Tia. Yes, her body will have to adapt first to be able to use the sub-elements. In a few weeks she will be able to learn the boil, but for now, we will wait until she passes the next test. The wind temptress and the present. So what are we going to do? Naruto asked in between bites as she ate her breakfast. Jiraiya had a thoughtful look while chewing his food. Right now I don't know. All I can think about is doing some speed training and some chakra control exercises. I could teach you sealing. Jiraiya said, recalling the things he taught her since she was 4 years old. Really, that's all you can teach me? Naruto sadly asked, wanting to learn more. You practically take things like a sponge, girl. You can let those dragons of yours to teach you more. Jiraiya suggested and went back to eating. After the two finished eating and paid for their food, Jiraiya took Naruto to the waterfall country. When they got there, Jiraiya brought Naruto to a bank that is by a river that shows a waterfall. Alright, from what I figured from your battle tests, it seems like it follows the element chart. Jiraiya said as he walked on the river and towards the waterfall with Naruto behind him, who happens to know the water walk technique. Naruto, what do you know of the element chart? The element chart is 5 elements. Well, there are 5 elements: water, earth, wind, fire and lightning. The chart goes from water is strong against fire, fire to wind to lightning, lightning to earth, and then earth to water. Is that what you are asking for? Naruto said, recalling the lectures about the elements from both Jiraiya and Tia, but the sub-elements were a lot more complicated, like magma and metal. They both require fire and earth, so it is a lot more complicated to explain. And tell me about your tests. Jiraiya asked as he examined the waterfall. Well, I started with the water tests, then I moved on to fire. Naruto said, then a thought entered her mind. Hey, my tests are like the element chart, and then wind is my next test. Jiraiya smirked at the brightness of his student. Tia could teach you some wind manipulation. The only wind training I know of is cutting a waterfall with wind chakra. Yeah, she said something about learning more advanced Taijutsu styles and improve my Kenjutsu, but I trained with her in my mindscape, so out here I just trained my body. Naruto said, looking inside her kimono to see her red bodysuit without its sleeves, and it only went down to her thighs. Is this bodysuit necessary? The bodysuit is like weights, and the armbands and shin bands are also used for speed training. Are you used to the extra weight? He earned a glare and he nervously laughed. Do 10 shadow clones, Naruto. Naruto created 6 shadow clones, and they all looked up to Jiraiya. Okay, 4 of them will do run up the waterfall with chakra, and 1 will try to split the waterfall with wind chakra, 2 will practice Taijutsu, and 2 will practice Kenjutsu, and the last 1 will come with me to review on seals. Jiraiya said, taking a shadow clone to shore. Hey. What about me? Naruto asked, the only one left on the middle of the river. You do some laps across the river and up the walls, that'll help you with chakra control and increase your reserves, though you don't really need to increase your reserves. You know that shadow clones can't improve your stamina, endurance and strength, Jiraiya said, and watched her start running. Okay, Naruto, what do you know about sealing? Mindscape training. Naruto appeared in her mindscape after her training with Jiraiya, and sure enough, it is very difficult. She walked towards the house in her mind to see that it is actually a bit bigger. Inside she saw Tia organizing some scrolls on the shelves. Oh, you arrived earlier than usual. Was Jiraiya's training that tiring? Tia said, then went back to the table in the middle of the room. Well, don't expect Volva and Leviathan's training to be easy either, from what I remember it is very difficult. Tia said, preparing some tea. Damn right, it will be hard. Naruto turned around to see Volva behind her, then went towards the table to sit down. Leviathan entered the room and took a seat near the table and accepted some tea from Tia. So what are you going to teach me? Naruto asked and eyed the tea on the table, wondering if it will quench her thirst. My training is to help you learn how to control fire. Volva said, holding a ball of fire in her hand and smothered the flames in a fist. Also, I will be teaching you the dragon's claw, which is an advanced form of the dragon stance, and your mother happens to know this style. I'll be learning mother's fighting style. Naruto had stars in her eyes getting to learn her mother's Taijutsu style. Yup, I will also be teaching you how to intensify your fire attacks. Volva said, then looked over to Leviathan. Your turn. Leviathan just took a sip of her tea, then had a thoughtful look. We could start with another fighting style called the flowing dragon, which is more fluid. I will also be teaching you Kenjutsu style that will take you a very long time to learn and is also very fluid. Leviathan said, telling about her training. I believe Tai doesn't have nothing much to teach you right now. Leviathan said, and Tia was looking over a scroll. You have nothing else to teach me? Naruto asked Tia, who nodded her head. Yeah, I got nothing to teach you right now. Jiraiya is already teaching you how to learn wind manipulation, and he is right about your next test, so you have to learn what you can from Jiraiya, Volva and Leviathan. I still have to organize this place up a bit. Tia motioned to the pile of scrolls on the floor. Naruto grabbed a scroll, and in it is the history of seals and what could they deal. Why are you organizing the things I learned? Well, I learned that your mind is still a bit in shambles, so I am left with fixing up your memory files. Like Tia took a scroll off the floor and opened it. Let's see, this scroll has everything you know about Shizune. This is a memory scroll, so I will have to file it as memory. Come on, we have to start your training. Naruto was about to take a scroll, but Volva grabbed Naruto and dragged her out of the house. Leviathan just sighed and walked out of the house, following the two into the field. Volva and Naruto arrived at an open field with some rocks embedded in the ground. Naruto stood up to look around. Okay, let's review on what you know about dragon breaths. Naruto turned to Volva, who is eyeing some boulders. Okay, do a stream of fire at that boulder over there and keep it flowing until you melt it. Naruto looked over at the boulder and took a deep breath and unleashed a stream of fire at the rock and continued on. 3 minutes into her flame attack, the boulder completely melted, so she stopped with her dragon breath. Leviathan was watching this going on and sat on a rock that shows the field below her, watching Naruto's training. Nice, you melted the rock fast. Now can you create a huge ball of fire? Volva asked Naruto, who took a deep breath and creates her great ball of flames at another rock that caused it to explode, completely destroying it. Now can you do the same thing but with multiple shots? Naruto was thinking it through and wondered how she could do it. Then she just did as she was told, creating miniature versions of that huge ball and multiple of them. Good, now can make a flame smear across the field. Naruto looked confused and didn't know what to do. You don't know what to do you? Naruto just shook her head. Thought so, tell me what you know about the dragon breath. Well, the dragon breath is the chemicals in the stomach that makes it very flammable and ignites when I take a deep breath. Naruto said, thinking on what she knew of dragon breath. Well, that is just the tip of the iceberg, girl. Volva said, remembering Leviathan teaching her how to spit out ice. Well, you have been using the dragon breath for some time now, and you noticed the difference between ice and fire breath, right? Naruto nodded, remembering the feeling of the flames in her stomach, ignited with the oxygen she breathes in and blows it out of her mouth. But the dragon ice breath is a bit different. She doesn't ignite the stuff in her stomach, so she uses her saliva and mix it with the stuff she uses to use fire, and she ends up spitting out ice. So the stuff in my stomach is used for dragon breath? Naruto asked Volva, who was about to answer, but Leviathan answered it. Yes, the stuff in your stomach is used to breath out flames and spit out ice. There are many uses for the dragon breath. Leviathan sat up from her sitting position on top of the hill. Volva nodded to her, not minding the interruption. There are many uses for the dragon breath. If you trained more into the dragon breath, you will be able to create a blast of wind, able to intensify your flames, spew out water, and if you want you can create a stream of lightning. Volva said, telling Naruto the uses for the dragon breath. Really cool, huh? Naruto nodded, wanting to learn more about the dragon breath. From what Leviathan told me, you required a jutsu to spew out water, right? Naruto nodded, remembering that jutsu to create some water. Well, that jutsu is a waste of your time, so you will be learning how to control your dragon breath. This was Leviathan's time to tell what she is going to teach Naruto. What she means is she is going to teach you the uses for the dragon breath. Me, I am going to teach you the fighting style, the flowing dragon, and the kinjutsu style called the current. Leviathan said, telling Naruto what she is going to teach her. 3 months later, in 3 months she is able to cut the waterfall in half and do it repeated times. Running up the river took 2 months, and she still had shadow clones doing the exercise to improve her control and reserves. Naruto's stamina and endurance increased as well from her running on top of the water with weights. Her bodysuit weight is 60 pounds, her wrists are 20 pounds each, shins are 30 each, and in total she has a total of 160 pounds. Jiraiya was amazed that she is able to walk normally with almost twice her weight. Jiraiya taught her the basics of the sealing art, and she is able to make her own storage seals and explosive seals. Naruto created a seal for her kunai that when she throws them they would fly as fast as sound, and the seal would disappear after use. It is called the bullet seal. She learned that kunais don't work right with this particular seal, so she had to find something that could work with the seal. Her training with Volva and Leviathan has gone great as well. Volva was able to get Naruto to learn some other methods of breathing out fire, like spreading fire across the field, concentrate a beam of fire that is able to melt a rock in seconds, create a ring of fire, make a tornado, and intensify her flames. Once she finished with it, she is able to learn her mother's taijutsu style called the dragon claws. It is just using her nails and concentrate some fire chakra to her nails to make fire claws, and that was the basics, so she had to mix it with the dragon stance to get what her mother has created. She also taught Naruto how to hold fire in her hands and throw it at a target that has the destruction of a small fireball, not what she was looking for, but it was a start. Leviathan taught Naruto the subtle style of the flowing dragon. The style requires fluid motions that flow around, attacks like a water to a rock and attack like a waterfall hitting down on a rock. The current is like the name suggests of her kinjutsu. She is able to flow like a calm river or attack quickly like the rapids. Another dragon breath she taught Naruto is the water ball, water pressure stream, and spewing out gallons of water. Right now she is ready to fight the wind tyrant, but first she must get by Jiraiya. "Hey, Naruto, you ready yet?" Jiraiya called out to Naruto, who removed her kimono and stood in her bodysuit. "Just a second, sensei." Naruto did a hand seal, and the air around Naruto shifted. Jiraiya knew she is going to take this seriously. She stretched her arms and legs, working her new weight. "Whenever you're ready." Both Jiraiya and Naruto stood facing each other for a few seconds before Naruto took a breath before unleashing a lung of fire that spread across the ground and engulfed Jiraiya. Naruto stood her ground, keeping her guard up. She knew that something like that isn't going to defeat Jiraiya. She heard rumble underneath her and she jumped away from where she was standing, and where she was standing is Jiraiya's hand in an attempt to bury her in the ground. Like her first move, she blew a ball of flame at the hand. When the flames died, there was only burnt earth, which was an earth clone. Naruto took a step back, just avoiding a punch to the face. Jiraiya continued on with his attacks, pushing Naruto back. Jiraiya was starting to have a hard time with his assault when he noticed that Naruto was fluidly avoiding his attacks. Then she struck with an open palm. He blocked the palm with his arm, but he was sent staggering back with a bit of stiffness in his arm. Ouch, that actually hurt. That style is as dangerous as Kushina's style. Jiraiya thought as he avoided Naruto's fluid motions of attack. Jiraiya took a jump back and did some hand seals. Earth style. Swamp of the underworld. Jiraiya slammed his palms to the ground, creating a huge land made out of swamp. Naruto was in the air when Jiraiya summoned the swamp, so she took a deep breath and spit out a tongue of ice at the swamp, freezing where she was going to land and land on the ground safely. "You're going to have to do better than that." Naruto taunted Jiraiya, and he retaliated with a water dragon using the swamp as a water source. "Ha. This is getting old." Naruto countered the jutsu with her own dragon, cancelling each out. "That wasn't my intention, girl." Jiraiya did a tiger seal, and she knew he was going to use fire, so she countered with her own flames. Both blew out a torrent of flames that both were trying to overpower each other. Jiraiya pulled a trick and appeared behind Naruto and kicked her into the swamp, but he only struck a shadow clone. Water style. Leviathan's tsunami. Jiraiya turned to the voice and saw a water version of Leviathan just before it splashed into the swamp, creating a huge tsunami, and came down on Jiraiya. The wave carried Jiraiya away and stopped after some time. Across the field, Jiraiya was coughing out some water and then was met by a huge ball of fire that struck him. When Naruto went to see her handiwork, she was only met by a scorched mud clone. "Damn, I almost had him." Behind a rock that is a bit away from where the mud clone Jiraiya left behind was coughing out some water. "Seriously, she caught me by surprise there with that wave. If I didn't create that mud clone, I would have been finished." Jiraiya peeked over the rock to see Naruto standing where he left his mud clone, trying to sense him out. Her ability to unleash fire and water attacks without seals is amazing, and she doesn't use much chakra when she does that. But that last attack must have drained her. Whoa. Jiraiya's thoughts were interrupted when his rock that he was hiding behind started to melt, and he felt great amount of heat, so he substituted himself with a rock that later was soon melted. When the rock that he hid behind completely melted, she is getting better sensing outer foes. "I should end this before she." Jiraiya was again interrupted from his thoughts. Water style. Water prison jutsu. Jiraiya turned around and was engulfed in a sphere of water. "Ha. Got you, sensei, I win." Naruto beamed when she caught Jiraiya in the water prison. "Sorry, Naruto, but you lose." Jiraiya said, confusing Naruto just before she felt weightless. "Huh?" she said just before falling into a pit and landed on her back. "How? I caught you." Naruto looked above the pit to see two Jiraiyas peeking down in the pit. "Shadow clone," she said just before the Jiraiya she caught turned into smoke. "Get up here, girl, we have to get to the next town before they close down a restaurant." Jiraiya called down and Naruto just shunshed out of the pit. She didn't bother with saying the fight was not over. She knew that Jiraiya had the ability to light that pit up in flames or make some spikes at the bottom, so it was just a test of her skills. After she gathered her stuff and put on her kimono, she started to run up to Jiraiya. "So what level am I?" Naruto asked as they walked towards the next town. "From what I witness, you were able to catch me off guard once, and you were able to hold your own with me when I am not fighting you seriously." Naruto just groaned hearing she wasn't able to make Jiraiya fight seriously. "Don't be down, kid, you will be able to take on some jonin on a one-on-one, and maybe two if you're lucky." That cheered her up knowing she is able to go toe-to-toe with a jonin. "Let's go, we need to resupply." Naruto nodded and dashed towards the next town. When they reached the next town they split up. Jiraiya said he had to go meet his contact and gave Naruto a list and food they need for another trip. He told her to meet him outside the bar they first saw on their way inside the town, and they both went their ways. Naruto walked into a shopping store and bought all the stuff they needed to camp outside if they can't reach a town before dark. After she bought the supplies and sealed them in a scroll, she went on to a shinobi store to look around. She entered the weapon side. They had everything a shinobi needed. She went to where they displayed the kunai and they had different kind of kunai. But each one wasn't the kind she needed, and then she saw what she was looking for. It was a throwing knife, 1 inch wide, 5 inch long, very thin, triangle blade at the end, sharp on each side and a hole at the end. It was the throwing knife she needs to try out her new bullet seal. Window shopping. Naruto screamed when she heard someone talking right into her ear and jumped back right into a wall and collapsed onto the floor. That always works. Naruto looked up to see her other sensei. Shizune, what the hell? Naruto yelled out and glared at the woman who scared her. It's always fun to scare you out of your kimono. Shizune said as she walked towards Naruto to help her up, then she fixed her kimono that was a mess. So what you looking for? I was just looking for a kunai that would go with my new seal, but it turns out there wasn't one, so I was going to buy this. Naruto said holding out the throwing knives she was holding. I need a weapon that can move quickly without wavering, and the kunai is just too large for my bullet seal. Shizune put down Tsunade's pig tauntaun on the floor and checked the knife over to see what she was looking for. It is perfectly balanced and weighs lightly and is very sharp if you are not careful. Yeah, it would be the kind of weapon you need for fast movements. Shizune said and handed the weapon back and picked up tauntaun. Naruto nodded and went to purchase her choice of weapons. So, where is Tsunade? Naruto asked, hoping that she is too busy to notice her. She does not need a woman trying to kill her again and again. She is at the bar over at the entrance of the town. Shizune said and Naruto nodded her head and thanked Kami that Tsunade is drinking at a bar near Oshide. Ah, Shizune, that bar wouldn't happen to be the lobster bar and grill now, would it? Naruto asked, hoping that Kami isn't playing a game with her. Yeah, that's the one. How do you know? Naruto sheepishly scratched her back and sure enough she sees Jiraiya running towards her with Tsunade right behind him. Naruto instantly hid behind Shizune when she saw Tsunade. Run for your life. Tsunade is drunk and she is pissed. Jiraiya yelled to Naruto but didn't say her name out. He zoomed right by Naruto and Shizune with Tsunade right behind him, completely ignoring Shizune and didn't spot Naruto. It's clear, Naruto. Shizune said, earning a sigh of relief from Naruto. So how did your training go? Nighttime, Naruto and Shizune were eating and talking at the bar they were supposed to meet after Tsunade chased after Jiraiya and wondered what he did to get Tsunade riled up. So you almost had him. Shizune listened to Naruto's latest fight with Jiraiya and was surprised that she was able to do such a thing. Yeah, but he ended the fight with a shadow clone and caught me in a pitfall. Naruto told Shizune how he tricked her with a shadow clone. They were interrupted. Well, the whole place was interrupted by a blonde woman with a huge chest, dragging a white-haired man, severely beaten almost to death, walked into the room. She looked around the room until she saw a flock of white hair. You. Tsunade pointed at Naruto, who and tried to take off, but Tsunade grabbed her and had a strong hold on her kimono. Where do you think you're going? I have been looking for you for a while now, and each time you see me you run. Now tell me why you keep running away. Tsunade asked very sweetly with a dark shadow over her eyes that promised death if you don't tell her. Naruto didn't answer, but she was stuttering for something. Then she did something that reminds Tsunade of Orochimaru. She slithered out of her kimono, grabbed her pack, dashed for Jiraiya, shunshin away from the restaurant, and ran for the hills. She pulled that off in less than 2.5 seconds, and she was able to pay for her and Shizune's meal with tip. Shizune was just smiling at Naruto's speed and was quite amused with how she keeps escaping Tsunade's wrath. She completely ignored Tsunade's rant of ungrateful pervert and unrespectful goddaughter. I hope she enjoys her birthday present. Shizune thought before she had to calm her sensei from tearing up the bar. Back with Naruto. Naruto was sitting upon a fire reading a scroll that Shizune gave her as a 12th birthday present. It was the chakra scalpel technique with some chakra control exercises. She already saw uses for such a technique and planned to use it with her flowing dragon stance to make it even more dangerous. She continued reading until she heard a tired groan from the beaten down Jiraiya. Back from the land of the dead are you? Naruto chuckled at her current sensei that sat up and began looking around. I'm not dead. For a second there I saw death in the face. Jiraiya said, looking at the bandage work on himself. How bad was it? He motioned to the bandages on himself that he received from Tsunade. Well, she nearly beat you to mush. You had a few broken ribs and a few broken bones that weren't too difficult to fix and realign. You had major bruising on the internal organs, and then you had internal bleeding that is repaired. Right now you will be alright in a few days. Naruto told Jiraiya as she handed him some water. Jiraiya accepted the water and chugged it all down. She always goes all out and this isn't the worst she has done to me. Jiraiya went back to lying down to get some rest. Naruto just shrugged. At least she provides me someone to practice my medical jutsu. Jiraiya just chuckled at that remark. Are you going to watch the next test? The wind test. Naruto nodded and he sat up from his position. Why not, my body may be broken, but my spirit is fully functional, unless Tsunade found a way to beat my spirit. Jiraiya proclaimed to the world and Naruto just laughed at that remark. Once the laughter stopped, Naruto bit her thumb and summoned Tia in her hatchling form. You ready? It has been 3 months, and I think what in Kami's name happened to you? Tia screamed out noticing the condition of Jiraiya. In fact don't answer that, from what I remembered from last time you looked beat up, you must have crossed paths with Tsunade. Tia said and just did the usual seals and summoned them both to Naruto's mindscape. Mindscape, Naruto looked over to the 3 dragons and noticed them heading towards the mountain that used to be the volcano. It not resembles an frozen peak. What happened to the mountain? Jiraiya asked wondering why the volcano turned to a frozen tundra. Oh that's what happens when nature takes a course. Tia said walking to the frozen peaks. Just halfway up the mountain a storm brew and Naruto understood that the winds up these mountains are very unstable. This is far enough. Tia said as she did what she usually does when summoning a dragon. She gathered chakra in her right hand and compressed it and shot it up in the clouds. So what kind of dragon am I fighting now? Naruto asked as she walked further up the mountain. This dragon is just as famous as Fatalis. She has many names like the Wind Dragon, Metal-Plated Dragon, Visitor of Steel, Embodiment of the Storm and the Frozen Dictator. Tia said and just on time the Wind Tyrant dove from the clouds and into view. Just like Fatalis the Wind Tyrant is an elder dragon, she is almost the same size as Fatalis, but smaller and its wings is on its back and stretches out and ends just where its tail begins. The tail just looks normal and the dragon's skin looks grayish or silver. Naruto meet Kushala Daora. Tia introduced her to her next tester and the dragon gave a screeching roar that caused a blast of wind that surrounds its body and maintaining. Good luck. Tia said just before she and the other 2 ran with Jiraiya being dragged away. Huh? Naruto said just before Kushala blasted her away with a wind blast that sent her down the mountain. Hey wait a minute, you're not going to give her some advice. Jiraiya said as Leviathan just dropped him to the ground after their little ditch and run. She needs to figure out this test herself. Leviathan told Jiraiya as she gazed down the mountain to see Naruto holding on a ledge for dear life. Besides, Daora takes these tests pretty seriously and we would have been on her crosshairs if we were nearby. Not to mention she isn't one to talk. Volva explained to Jiraiya about Kushala Daora and they watched the said dragon flew in the air and descended towards Naruto. After Naruto gained her bearings on the mountain she heard something above her to see Kushala dove right at her blowing a wave of wind at Naruto. She held onto the mountain for dear life, as the wind died down, she climbed up to get a better standing in the fight. Once she reached a level fighting ground she stood her ground and looked for the dragon that blew her away. Damn snow. Naruto shouted getting infuriated by the snow blinding her. She couldn't see a meter ahead of her and the wind isn't helping her hear the dragon out. She tried to sense the dragon out but she couldn't find it. Oh to hell with it. Naruto shouted just before she took a deep breath and blew a powerful stream of fire that spread across the land and down the mountain, melting the snow. She kept that up until the blizzard turned to rain and she could see more clearly now. Smart. Naruto heard behind her to see Kushala Daora standing behind her and once again Kushala did a wind blast at Naruto, but this time she held onto the ground with chakra on her feet. Kushala kept up blowing wind at Naruto, but she still held on. Naruto took a deep breath and shot a few fireballs at Kushala, but the dragon avoided them and countered with a wind blast and Naruto unleashed her own fire blast. When both the wind blast and fire blast met they battled for dominance. Naruto kept up her flames, but she noticed that Kushala started to increase the velocity of the wind blast and completely overtaken Naruto's flames. Kushala's wind blast carried Naruto's flames making the attack more dangerous to Naruto, so she substitutes herself with a rock lying on the ground. After she got away from her near defeat, she drew her sword and head towards Kushala. The dragon looked to her side to see Naruto coming towards her with a sword ready to slice her open. Naruto smirked when she got a clean cut at Kushala, but her smirk dropped from her face. What the Naruto said as she watched her sword slid down from Kushala's skin, she didn't even make a dent or a scratch on her skin. Then she heard a chuckle from Kushala and can see her clearly laughing. My skin is made out of metal, not even your sword can cut my skin. Kushala laughed a bit before she struck Naruto with claws and lungs. Naruto continued to evade the attacks and jump away from Kushala's wind blast. What's the point of making me fight a dragon I can't defeat? Naruto thought just before she jumped on Kushala's head and jumped behind the dragon. Metal, 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 what can defeat metal? Naruto tried to figure out the weakness of this dragon's weakness. Then she got an idea. That might work. Naruto took a jump into the air and blew a turret of flames at Kushala and kept her flames up and once that was done, she unleashed a water dragon at the dragon. Once that was done she watched Kushala's metal skin turn to rust. She redid the fire and water attacks until Kushala's whole metal skin turned to rust. Kashala's movement were now sluggish and it was hard for her to move. Looks like I win. Naruto said as she stood in front of Kashala and once again she heard the dragon chuckle at her. It would look like you have won this fight, but I might have to thank you. Kashala said and Naruto noticed a huge stump on Kashala's back. The stump was bulging just before a crack appeared and spread out and opened up. Inside is a shiny tan skin and slowly something got out of the rusted skin. Naruto was amazed that Kashala de aura had shed out of the rusted skin and appeared to Naruto in a new skin. Without that metal I will be able to cut through your skin. Naruto said and once again, Kashala was in full-blown laughter. Like I said to you before, I thank you. Kashala said just before her skin turned from tan skin to silver metal plate. After Kashala's metal skin reformed she struck Naruto with a claw and watched as she turned into water. Oh come on, I turned her coat into rust and she sheds her skin and reforms another shed of skin. Naruto thought as she tried to avoid Kashala's attacks. Metal is definitely hard to pierce and impossible to cause a dent in it. The only way to get through it is to go around it and Kashala has every angle covered. Naruto thought trying to figure out how to get around Kashala's metal skin. From what she remembers from Tia's lectures is that when metal is superheated and then cooled, it is impossible to break apart. Okay, she could try that out. Naruto unleashed a torrent of flames at Kashala but the rain is keeping Kashala's metal skin from being superheated. Looks like she figured out how to pass this test. Tia said as she watched Naruto unleash flame after flame attacks, but it was not enough. Her flames is getting more intense. Volva watched as Naruto's flame attacks turned white. Then they saw her do the shadow clone jutsu and all of them unleashed a stream of white flames. Once the flames died down Kashala was glowing orange and was able to withstand the heat. Alright. Cool her down. Naruto shouted to the clones and they unleashed a water dragon missile to cool down Kashala. Once the steam dispersed Naruto cancelled her cloned and noticed that Kashala was stuck and unable to move. She walked towards Kashala and looked directly into her eye. Try breaking out of that. Naruto knocked on her skin to hear the sound of hard metal, then she noticed Kashala's eyes turning silver and she couldn't help but stare, but the dragon burst into winds and sent Naruto flying across the field and rolling across the mud that formed during the fight. Oh come on. Naruto yelled as she wiped the mud from her eyes. This is the third time this happened. Indeed. Naruto heard behind her to see a silver dragon that is almost as tall as Jiraiya, if not a 3 heads taller. It has violet wings with glowing patterns and it is a wyvern-type dragon. The dragon had a long horn pointed ahead with one that points straight and one a bit up. The dragon looks like it has green skin with yellow bright patterns that look like lights. The dragon is also covered in a silver shell that covered the wings, horn, tail and back and it is also has engraved patterns. What worried her is that she didn't hear the dragon appear behind her. Then just like Kashala this dragon turned into winds, but it surrounded the dragon and she stood before Naruto in an adult female form that has white short hair that is angled a bit and she has red silver eyes. She is wearing a dress that looks like black wrappings with red lining and patterns, her arms were wrapped in the same wrappings, she had on tight black pants with some red patterns, she also has on a black scarf with the same red pattern and she had black sandals. Since you found a way to defeat Kashala, let's get this over with. The woman said as she held her hands out and a bright silver light appeared between her hands. My name is Ortolagi the Wind Temptress, the Storm Harbinger and Dragon of the Azure Sky, I give to you the will to summon the wind dragons. Long forgotten the mud on her body she placed a hand over the light and she absorbed it and she soon disappeared from her mindscape. Real world. Naruto began to stir when the morning sun began to beat down on her and she shifted to get the light out of her eyes, but she noticed something heavy on her. She opened her eyes to see an egg sitting on her. The egg was just as big as her lower arm and a bit dark. But the Naruto tapped the egg to test it and sure enough, it was hard as a rock, but odd enough she heard a tap on the inside. Okay. Naruto's mindscape. The house in Naruto's mind has gotten bigger and the dragons inside were in the meeting room having a meeting. So let me get this straight, Leviathan said while messaging her head from the headache Tia gave her and the other two. Not only did you give her a pseudo-wyvern egg, but you gave her the vicious one of them all. Leviathan yelled at Tia who only waved her comment aside and drank some tea. I had to give her a gift and it is her 12th birthday and she passed her 3rd test, besides I believe she can handle the dragon. Tia said ignoring the glare she received. You gave her a pseudo that can easily defeat Kashala and Hydra combined, not to mention even Fatalis had a problem fighting that type of dragon. Orda voiced in her concerns. The previous one was shunned and hated everything, besides this one can be raised properly, not to mention, not all of these types of dragons are vicious. Tia said which eased up the two said dragons. So what are you going to teach her Orda? From what I seen I will have to help her develop her wind manipulation. She doesn't have to increase her wind power, but she can use wind to increase her speed and her close range attacks. Orda said to the two. If I train her enough she can learn to glide and later fly if she practice. I could throw in a few wind techniques. What about you? Tia motioned to Volvagia, who was thinking what she can teach Naruto. Nothing much, but I will teach her the advanced forms of the dragon claw and wielding fire with her hands. Volva said, wondering how long she has to wait to teach her how to use plasma. She has the wind now, I should be able to teach her that, but Orda will have to get comfortable in Naruto first before she learns plasma. Volva thought. Leviathan, anything you could teach Naruto. Tia looked over to the water dragon. She can already will water to form around her, so I will have to teach her the more advanced forms of the flowing dragon and the current. With Orda here she can learn how to wield ice, but we will have to wait. Tia nodded, understanding the need to wait. What about you? Me, I could teach her the art of war and tactics. This caused the three of them to chuckle a bit, and Tia had to really think it through until she remembered something. I could start with her boil training. Real world, so you have no idea where that egg came from? Jiraiya asked and Naruto nodded. If I had to guess, it might be a gift from your inner friends. That is believable. Naruto said, cradling the egg in her arms. She can still feel some taps from the inside and wondering if the egg will hatch soon. Any idea what we should do now? Jiraiya shifted where he was sitting and thought it through. Taking you back to Konoha isn't a good idea. The old man will probably waste away your talents by placing you in a genin team. Jiraiya said, not wanting for his student to be tied down by weak genin. Then he remembered that Naruto is a bit older than the clan heirs by 3 years old, so again going back to Konoha isn't a good idea. We will have to up your training again. I can take it. Naruto understood how demanding training under Jiraiya. First we will have to increase your weights. Naruto groaned, hearing she will have to carry heavier weights. None of that now, you were able to keep up with me in our fights. I could continue on with teaching you sealing and you can practice your bullet seal. I will have to push you a lot harder than I did before and I can teach you the race, and Jiraiya would have said more until the two heard a cracking sound. Naruto looked down to see the egg is breaking apart. It's not really training anymore. Naruto looked at the creature that poked its head out of the egg. From what she can see is that the creature is cat-like. Naruto plucked a shell of the egg open and watched the creature fling out of the egg and clinged onto Naruto and purred. It is the size of a kitten. That doesn't look like an ordinary cat. Jiraiya said, motioning to the black cat with yellow eyes, sharp claws, black fur with some scales and a tail. Weird enough, the front paws has small red webbings attached to its side. It looks more like one of your dragons. Jiraiya reached for the kitten, but the cat swiped its claw at the hand and left a gash. Ouch. He looked over his hand to see a deep scratch. It sure has sharp claws. The hatchling in question was hissing at Jiraiya. That looked cute in Naruto's point of view. It doesn't seem that sharp. Naruto said, and she picked up the cat-like dragon. The hatchling didn't fight and just purred as it was being held in her arms. Besides, she's cute. It's kind of difficult to recognize the gender of a dragon. Jiraiya said, and Naruto just shrugged. I had a feeling. Naruto said, as the claws on the dragon were indeed sharp, but her skin is able to handle it. I need help. Naruto channeled chakra to her teeth and bit her thumb. Summoning jutsu. Naruto summoned Tia in her lizard form. I see you received your present. Tia said, motioning to the dragon in Naruto's arms. You gave her that dragon. Jiraiya said, tending to the scratch he received from that black hatchling. Well, I had to give her something. Tia said, groaning, hearing the same talk she had with the other three. You could have given her a technique or a special ability. Jiraiya said, and Tia was thinking it through. Nope, this is the best one I can give her, not to mention she is exiting the hatchling stage and into childhood. Tia said. Wait, childhood? I'm now 12 years old and entering early teenage years. Naruto said, wanting to know why she was still considered a newborn or hatchling and Tia's point of view. Well, you have dragon blood and you age slowly, and I mean very slowly. Right now you have exited the hatchling stage. As of now your eyes will develop soon and your body will be able to combine elements. Tia said, explaining to Naruto about the stages Naruto will be entering. Your strength will be increased, skin hardens, element control strengthens, senses sharpen, and you will be scarier. This confused both Jiraiya and Naruto. What do you mean scarier? Am I going to get uglier? Naruto asked, not liking it one bit. No, that's not what I meant. You know that feeling when someone's so powerful in front you can't help but run away. Tia said, trying to explain to the two about her new ability. Jiraiya thought it through. The ability Tia was explaining to him sounded like she would be releasing her killing intent around her, but it is just her presences. Naruto's presence will scare people or normal people, but ninja will feel uncomfortable around her. Tia said, telling Naruto her new ability. Why would she need this? Jiraiya asked, wanting to know why she has this kind of ability. Us dragons are known to be frightening creatures, and it is very true. Just standing in my presence in my true form will send you two into a year-long coma. Tia said, telling them what this ability can do. Wait, hold on a second. Me and Jiraiya have met some dragons, and not once we have felt scared. Naruto said, remembering her encounters with the dragons in her mind. Yes, he have, but you only met them mentally, and meeting them here will guarantee you feeling uncomfortable. Tia said. Naruto just nodded, understanding she will be scaring a lot of people. Well, she doesn't have to worry about people hitting on her. What about this, what is she? Naruto asked about the hatchling in her arms. Well, that is one of the deadliest pseudo-wyvern or false dragon there is. Tia said just before she was cut off by Naruto. What do you mean false dragon? Naruto asked, looking down at the black dragon in her arms. Well, they have the ability to fly, but it is just a name that carried down in time. They are more vicious and deadlier than a normal wyvern, they rely more on physical attacks, and this one here is from one of the deadliest of them all. Tia said, sounding a bit proud of giving her one of them. And what is its name? Naruto asked, scratching the side of the dragon's ears, hearing a purr sound from it. Well, the previous one was named Nargacuga. You can give her a different name if you like. Tia told Naruto the dragon's name. I guess I can name her that. Naruto said, cradling the hatchling in her arms. Good to know. Tia said, walking towards the hatchling. I might as well do this right now. Tia did some hand seals and touched the hatchling on the back. Naruto watched all the characteristics of what makes little Kyuga a dragon disappeared, and what is left is a kitten. You should keep this a secret. Yeah, it would bring Naruto a lot of attention if news of her having a dragon gets out. Jiraiya said, now knowing that he will have to up her training drastically if she is going to have a dragon. Anything she needs to know about looking after a hatchling? Well, she will need nourishment like milk and meats, fish are preferable. Over time little Kyuga here will start trying to hunt little animals like squirrels, mice, rabbits and fish if it goes into water. Training well, just add weights to help build up speed. Strength it already got. Tia said, telling Naruto what to do to look after the little hatchling. Well, I'll see you later Naruto, I have to prepare for tonight's session. Tia said just before she poofed out of existence. Come on, we should get to the next country. Jiraiya said, picking up his bag with Naruto behind him with a little kitten in her arms. Nighttime mindscape. Naruto was following Tia when she first entered her mind, well, more like Tia dragged her away. Okay, we are going to start with your first sub-element training. Tia said in her human form. Since you exited the hatchling stage and into childhood, your body is able to combine elements. Since water and fire were your first before you exited that stage, that we should start working with a boiler vapor, if you want to call it that. So how am I going to use vapor? Naruto asked Tia about learning a sub-element. Simple, your body will do the work while I show you the hand seals. Tia said, showing Naruto the hand seals of a jutsu. It's called boil style. Solid fog jutsu. This jutsu allows you to breath out some fog that is highly corrosive, depending on your skill on using it. This the basic form of the boil style, so you will have to build it up from there. You will have to create your own for now. Just practice the jutsu until I see that I deem it fit enough. Naruto nodded and did the hand seals and ended using the horse seal. Boil style. Solid fog jutsu. Naruto opened her mouth and mist came out of her mouth and spread across the field. Let's see. Tia put her hand in the mist to feel it out. It is satisfactory but needs improvement. You can also dissipate the fog with the horse seal. Naruto did the horse seal and willed the fog away. Good, keep practicing, I'll be right back. Tia left Naruto and went towards Leviathan, who was watching her train. She's going to need the ice style to defeat the lightning tyrant. Leviathan said to Tia while keeping an eye on Naruto. We will have to wait a month for her to learn the basics and another 2 to get some control over ice. As for her eyes, Tia left that hanging, and Leviathan knew that she is going to need more training to use her eyes. She'll need another sub-element for later. What about plasma? Volva called as she entered the field. She has excellent control over her flames, but she still needs control over wielding it. Plasma is strong and deadly, but she will need more control over heat, and ice is easier for now. Tia said as she looked up in the sky and thought. For now she will work on her boil jutsu for now, and when her body develops ice and plasma, you two can look over her training. Tia ordered Leviathan and Volvagia, who nodded in agreement. Volva was excited, teaching Naruto the next stage in her element training. As for Orda, Tia looked over to an empty place and watched as the wind blew gently and Orda entered her view. You can teach her how to use wind more effectively, and you can teach her that technique as well. The wind veil, yeah, I can teach her that. Orda said, watching Naruto blew out a fog that she can tell that if a normal person can melt to the bones. Alright, it is settled. Tia said, gaining everyone's attention. You 3 will start teaching Naruto mastery level manipulation on your elements, so the next form of sub-elements will be easier for her. The 3 said dragons nodded in agreement. As for you sis. The 3 dragons were confused. Do as you please. Tia looked behind her as the other 3 dragons looked where she was looking to see an exact replica of Tia, but taller and clothing like Tia with armor, with a combination of Naruto's and Leviathan's. I'll train her when I'm beckoned to fight with her. The woman said just before vanishing. Who is she and what is she doing here? Volva asked, not recognizing her or why Tia called her sis. She is someone that is beyond us. Orda said, remembering what her predecessor told her. I heard rumors about dragons passing their mantle to dragons like us and become swords. Volva looked confused about this. That's right. Volva here didn't have a predecessor, she earned her rank by fighting for it. Leviathan said, remembering her predecessor. So what does this has to do about the previous boss dragons? Volva asked, not liking being left out. After they handed down their status as boss dragon, they become living swords or sentient weapons if they want to. Orda said, telling Volva about the dragons that become swords. And you just met Tia's predecessor, and if memory served me right, her power far surpasses ours. Volva nodded, then she remembered what that woman said. What did she mean beckon to fight with her? That is what caused Orda and Leviathan to perk up, and each had a worried look. Well, you see back then, dragons beckon other dragons. Orda said, breaking in the news to Volva. That doesn't seem bad. Volva said, but it was Leviathan who broke the news to her. She means that someone else with the same type of sword as Naruto can call in her power. Leviathan told Volva, remembering her predecessor that holds the name the Ice Dragon King who disappeared from the world. The next day, Naruto was alongside Jiraiya and getting used to the weight she has on. She doesn't know what she had on, but she knows it is more than 3 times her weight or more, and her little Kyuga is happily sleeping inside Naruto's kimono. Where are we going, sensei? Naruto asked Jiraiya, who is again bandaging his hand when he tried to wake Naruto up this morning, but received a scratch from the kitten. We're heading to the east side of Fire Country and start training you. Kami knows the training you will cause major damage to the area, so the ocean is a good place, and no one will get hurt with a little of water. Naruto nodded, remembering how she completely destroyed her previous training ground with a misplaced fireball that was completely wide and destructive. What happened to the waterfall? Well, it turned into a new water slide. The trip was silent minus Naruto attending to her kitten and the said kitten scratching hard objects. Both Naruto and Jiraiya chalked it down as a cat's urge to scratch something. So I will have to channel lightning chakra through that rock. Naruto stated, practicing lightning manipulation. Yes, the goal is for you to pass the lightning charge through that rock. Jiraiya told Naruto, teaching her advanced lightning manipulation. This is the first thing he had to teach her when they arrived at the beach. Naruto nodded and channeled lightning chakra in her hands and built it up and up as much as she could. Jiraiya was teaching a shadow clone of Naruto on ceiling until he heard a crackling sound with the original Naruto. He looked over to see Naruto holding her right hand out, pointing at the rock with white lightning in her hands. It was so much of it that he can clearly see the lightning, and sure enough it was too much, but he wanted to see what she was doing. Naruto was holding out her hand and built up lightning chakra in her hand. She kept it up until she couldn't hold it anymore and held it as much as possible. Then she launched it at the rock. Jiraiya was shocked that Naruto launched a lightning attack at the rock that passed through it. It didn't absorb into the rock, but went through it. Her attack drilled a clean hole through the rock and created an explosion when it hit the rock bed behind the rock it went through. What he didn't expect was Naruto to be thrown back by the force of her own attack. Whoa. Naruto said after she picked herself off the sand and looked at the carnage she created. Let's try that again. 1 hour later she figured out what she did and caused much more carnage around her. Jiraiya was sitting about 100 meters away from Naruto or anything near her when she was destroying the place. From what he's seen, she created her own technique by accident, and from what he saw, the technique is an air rank. He watched Naruto played with her new technique and shot it in the ocean after she discovered the disaster she created around herself. From what he is seeing, she is making it appear faster, making it stronger and more dangerous. What made this technique her own? It is element manipulation and shape manipulation. How she knew shape manipulation he doesn't know, but it would save him the trouble. Then he saw her collapse to the sand. Kyuga ran towards Naruto and jumped on her stomach and went to sleep. Naruto was taking in as much as air as possible, and Kyuga was just enjoying her rising pillow. Learned your lesson yet? Jiraiya said, watching her take in air from her constant firing of her new discovered technique. From what I seen, you created an S-rank long and medium range technique, and from what I saw, it is a forbidden jutsu. I still got to work it out first before I can use it in a battle. Naruto said, now just resting and thinking what she has to do to improve her new jutsu. Riruhu. An. Railgun. What? Jiraiya said as he was teaching a shadow clone ceiling. My personal technique, Riruhu, you seen what that technique did? Naruto looked around to see the disaster she created just practicing her technique. Thou I say it is more on the demolition side. Jiraiya nodded in agreement to her technique. I think I should teach you something on the close range jutsu. Naruto looked up to Jiraiya as he held up his hand. Then she saw chakra circle around in his hand until she saw a ball of chakra formed in his hand. This little number here is called the Rasengan. Your father has created this technique, and as you saw, it is pure chakra manipulation and shape manipulation. Jiraiya already told Naruto who her father is and increased her desire to be Hokage and surpass her father. Naruto looked over the Rasengan. She held out her hand and formed a ball of flames. It's pure chakra. Yes, there are 3 steps with this jutsu, and the first one is this. Jiraiya pulled out a scroll, and out came a water balloon. Naruto just gave him a blank look. You keep water balloons in scrolls. Naruto stated with her blank look. Well, I was planning to teach you the Rasengan and I got this when we were in the previous town. Jiraiya held the water balloon in his hand, showed it to Naruto. Now watch closely. The water balloon started to expand and started bubbling out and burst out. Now what did you see? You burst the balloon with chakra. Naruto told Jiraiya of what she saw. Good eyes. Jiraiya pulled out another water balloon from the scroll. Just try not to burn yourself out again. Jiraiya told Naruto to make another shadow clone and took it to study sealing. Little Kyuga discovered a crab and went to go play with it. Naruto nodded as she looked over the balloon. She channeled her chakra into the balloon and into the water to make it burst out, but didn't succeed. This isn't working. He used chakra to blow up the balloon. She thought how Jiraiya made that ball of chakra that looked like a whirlpool with it spinning fast and faster. Making chakra spin to make the balloon burst. Then she started to make the water spin around inside the balloon. She watched the balloon stretched as it spin and again she thought more on the Rasengan. Maybe if I add more spins. Jiraiya was teaching Naruto sealing until he heard a pop sound. He just chuckled and took out his scroll and tossed it at Naruto. Naruto was looking at her hand right after she popped the water balloon. She caught a scroll that came from Jiraiya. Inside is the second step. Naruto nodded and pulled out a rubber ball and began to examine it. Not examine what it is made of, but how she is going to pop it. This one is harder than the previous one, this one doesn't have any water in it, and to make it harder the dense material the ball is made of is going to make it hard. After a few minutes Jiraiya heard a loud pop noise and saw Naruto holding nothing in her hands. She looked back at him and just formed flames in her hands. This is natural to me. She'll master it sooner than I expected. 1 week later, true to what he expected, Naruto has mastered the technique in a week. He noticed that Naruto has become observant, very observant. Every time she makes a mistake, she fixes them down to correction and improves it. He also felt what Tia was talking about, he started to feel uncomfortable around Naruto, but he got used to it over time. When Naruto gone into town, people started to avoid her or move away from her, which she took a liking. Her new personal technique, the Riruhu, has become her favorite technique after she perfected it. She already thought on variations from close range to very long range and an overload technique. She already started working on a close range technique that would be able to go with a Rasengan, but it isn't in progress and a bit difficult. Okay, it is very difficult next to impossible. She isn't the only one who improved. Her little Nargacuga or Kyuga for short isn't little anymore and is the size of a regular cat and has recognizes Jiraiya as an ally and not a threat, but he still receives scratches for trying to pick her up and whenever she is hungry, now Naruto misses her little kitten. As for Naruto's training on seals or the bullet seal, the throwing knives she picked turned out to be the right one and they are impossible to see. Jiraiya first suffered from trying to grab the knife and ended up with a knife embedded in his hand, but Naruto fixed him up. She also learned how to make seals to suppress demon chakra, make a tracking seal, able to recognize a seal, and break it down to what each seal does, make a privacy seal and finally a gravity seal. Jiraiya found out that Naruto had a knack for seals, in fact she is an all-purpose kunoichi from seals to medical jutsus, minus seduction. Tsunade will kill him if he teaches her that or better yet, how he knew about training her in seduction. With her boil training she created a jutsu that makes a jet of steam from her mouth and one that she blew out a ball of steam from her mouth and expands outwards when impact. Tia was right about the boil training, she had to figure out how to make her own jutsu for boil. As for her weighted bodysuit, she got rid of it after she discovered the wonders of the gravity seal. She had a shadow clone imprint the seal on her lower back and changed it to look like a dragon that has its body coiled into a kanji for 3, which is 3 times her weight. If she wanted to increase the gravity it'll change a kanji for 4. The dragon only appears when activated and deactivated, but if she wanted people to see her seal, she wants them to see a dragon. Not to mention to add more agonizing training, or to give her a seal that will make her movements heavy, which she discovered that the wind is affecting her movement. The dragon looks like it has a wind shield around its body and has sharp-looking claws. She had to use wind chakra to move normally and constantly which drained her of chakra. As of now, you're moving slowly, you know that. Jiraiya said to Naruto who glared at him from the ground. Hey. I haven't quite got used to this wind seal and gravity seals yet. Naruto stood up from her nasty hit from Jiraiya, she felt the hit but didn't feel hurt. I'm actually glad that my skin is developing harder, it was a week ago. Naruto thought as she stood in her flowing stance. Alright, get ready. Jiraiya called out just before he began attacking Naruto. Little Kyuga is on the side watching the fight, but Naruto knew that her little dragon wants to help her fight. Jiraiya pressed on with his assault which Naruto began to adjust more and more, that is when he saw her eyes. Her eyes were golden with a slit like a cat. He pressed on and noticed she started to hold her ground. That is when she started to push Jiraiya back. What terrified him is that he noticed chakra coating her hands. He blocked a palm thrust to his stomach but blocked it with his arm and felt his arm went dead. Jiraiya jumped back to examine his arm to see that she cuted his tendons and figured out she used chakra scalpels. Jiraiya looked up to Naruto to see her eyes and felt like she was figuring him out. It feels like she is examining me with those eyes of hers. Jiraiya thought as he flexed his right arm that she cut. She barely cut it completely. I have some feeling with my arm. Naruto stood in her flowing stance with the added chakra scalpel jutsu. That stance has just gotten more dangerous. Jiraiya had to avoid Naruto's hands at all times when he was fighting her, and to be more careful, he had to use more speed to avoid them. It was like fighting a Hyuga. Okay Naruto, you can take a break. Naruto stopped and slumped down to the ground spread eagle. Hyuga went up to Naruto with a worried expression, but Naruto just petted her to reassure the hatchling. Jiraiya went to sit next to a tree and thought on Naruto's training. The first thing he thought of is how observant she is. She has a habit of learning things on the spot or from experience, in short she is learning at a fast rate. He already doesn't have much to teach her other than earth jutsus, and her dragons can teach her the rest. All he has is sealing and earth jutsu left, and if she improves the Rasengan then she would surpass him. He doubts that Naruto will learn Senjutsu or Sage mode with her unbalance of chakra, and then if she learns that, then she will definitely surpass him. All her can do right now is watch her fights with the remaining two dragons of lightning and earth. If all goes smoothly he will finish her training in a year. Maybe he can let her wander around the elemental country for a year or two on her own to gain experience on her own. Then he thought of her eyes. Obviously they were her dragon eyes or whatever they call it. There was one thing true about a dragon, they are very observant creatures. During his fight with Naruto after she activated her eyes, she started to fix and adjust her stance when needed, avoid each attack that could have sent her flying, and figure out what she needs to do in a fight with him. Basically, he felt like he was fighting an Uchiha and a Hyuga combined. 12 years old and is already making him work hard to avoid her attacks. Jiraiya can only wonder if he will be able to hold his own against Naruto when she is fully trained. Alright kid, let's get back with Taijutsu. Jiraiya called out to Naruto who just waved out at Jiraiya and forced herself up, ignoring her body's protest of resting. I'm going to have to push her past her limits for her to survive. He thought before he began his relentless assault on Naruto, driving her beyond her limits. Mindscape. Tia was again organizing Naruto's memories and noticed the scroll's writings began to be more detailed, which only signified one thing that made the dragon smile. Naruto has finally activated her dragon eyes. Things will be easier from here on now. Tia thought before she went back to organizing Naruto's memories. 1 month later, Naruto and Jiraiya were again having another fight with Naruto removing her gravity and wind seal. Naruto had on her battle kimono with armor on and katana with her in this fight. Jiraiya wanted to see her overall fighting capability. Jiraiya was waiting in the middle of a field waiting for Naruto's appearance. He may have taught her deadly jutsus, but he made sure that he won't be able to sense her out and she is getting really good at it. The field was quiet until he felt a build-up of chakra with a sound of lightning which he knew what jutsu she was going to use. With a quick substitution he heard a loud explosion of where he used to be and knew that he would be severely beaten if he took that attack directly. He didn't bother with going to search where that attack came from because the ground was engraved from where he was to where it was fired with Naruto still in position. His face went to a scowl when the Naruto that fired the Riruhu poofed out of existence. She figured out how to use her shadow clones more effectively. Jiraiya thought as he jumped up into the air to avoid another Riruhu that almost hit him and exploded when it made contact to a rock. With the force of the explosion that sent him flying away, but he balanced himself out in the air to land on the ground safely. Is she trying to kill me? He heard a hissing sound and looked to the source on the ground to see an explosive note that was connected to another explosive note with more completely surrounding him. Yup, she is trying to kill me. Jiraiya's last thought before the explosive circle completely engulfed him in flames. Naruto visibly appeared on a rock a few meters away from where Jiraiya was caught in a trap. She looked over to the smoking remains and sighed when she sensed Jiraiya behind her. I figured that something like that won't get you. Naruto said, not bothering to turn around. I noticed that your second Riruhu wasn't aimed directly at me and I figured that you had something planned. Jiraiya grinned as Naruto looked over her shoulder to show her golden slitted eye to Jiraiya and she smiled at Jiraiya. It would seem we think alike. Naruto said before she poofed out of existence, as did Jiraiya. The fight went on for an hour with the same thing going on over and over. Each one killed differently, well Naruto tried to kill Jiraiya and Jiraiya just cornered her. Jiraiya got shocked, stabbed, impaled, drowned, incinerated, beheaded and turned into a pincushion. But every time either Naruto or Jiraiya got each other in a corner, they end up as a clone. Now Jiraiya knew that she is trying to kill him. Well, he did say go all out and try to make it like your life depends on it and now he regrets saying those words for this fight. Jiraiya knew that this fight will continue for the rest of the day if this continued on and so he faced the real Naruto as she raised her palm and willed her Rasengan in her hand. Bored already? He joked as Naruto just looked away. Don't worry kid, if you were fighting anyone else, they would have been dead the first attempt with the explosive circle. Jiraiya raised his palm and willed a Rasengan. You know this will just end up as a stalemate if we do this. Naruto smiled and pumped more chakra in her hand with a bit of a surprise. I figured I could test my new technique on you. Naruto said as her Rasengan had a sudden jolt with it. The Rasengan began to hold an electrical charge inside the center of the spiral. It's not complete. I figured that if I had more training I could complete it. Your father also had an affinity with lightning, which does explain your high control of lightning. Jiraiya said and wondered why she didn't have a high control with lightning in the first place. Her control with lightning right now is near mastery, and why does it have a white color? To a shrug of that thought he pumped more chakra in his Rasengan to make his Rasengan stronger. Both opponents stood their ground waiting for something to call for them to attack with their own version of Rasengan. On the west side of the field we have Naruto with her element Rasengan in hands with it, sparking every few seconds showing it a lightning version Rasengan. On the east side of the field is Jiraiya with a Rasengan on steroids with a 3 times the original size Rasengan. The field is dead quiet just before the wind blew, and that was when both charged at each other, raising their personal Rasengan at each other. The Dama lightning style. Rasengan. Both Rasengans clashed for dominance as sparks and chakra flew across from each other as both pressed harder and pumped more chakra into their own Rasengan. Both were at a stalemate and must come to an end in a violent kind of way. The results of channeling loads of chakra into an attack caused an explosion that sent both Naruto and Jiraiya flying back. Jiraiya was skipping across the ground and started to roll, but stopped when he hit a rock, but he was fine minus the scrap and cuts. Naruto on the other hand had hit a rock and broke through it, but she too is fine minus the bruising. Oh man, how hard was that rock? Okay, maybe she hit that rock a lot harder. You had to use my powered up version of Rasengan, didn't you? Naruto called out as she began healing her own bruising as best as possible with the chakra she had left. Do you expect me to survive a lightning version of that technique with a regular Rasengan? I was lucky I was flung back. Jiraiya yelled back as he limped towards Naruto to get some medical attention. Jiraiya sat in front of Naruto as she healed the small scraps and cuts. You know, if we go back to Konoha, the Hokage will have to figure out what to rank you. Jiraiya said in a serious tone. I know. I just need more time to complete the other 2 tests. Naruto said as she healed Jiraiya's minor injuries. What rank do you think I will have when I get back? Jiraiya had a thoughtful look with his hand messaging his chin. From my near-death experiences, Naruto sheepishly scratched her back, remembering how many times she nearly killed Jiraiya. Your rank would be Elite Jounin and bordering Sannin. A few more intense learning than you will have the rank Sannin. Learning, don't you mean training? Naruto said a bit confused. No, I mean learning. Since you started using the gravity seal and the wind resistant seal, a simple movement is training to you. All I do is just teach you a jutsu and you learn it from the spot and improve it. Naruto nodded her head, remembering her training with a new technique. It isn't even challenging if I just learn to do a simple technique. Naruto sighed at not having a challenge in her life. Don't worry about it kid, when you start with the sub-element training then you will be kept occupied. Naruto cheered up knowing she will have more to learn. So should we get on with the test now or later? Mindscape. After Naruto and Jiraiya found a hotel from a nearby town and fed Kyuga, both had entered Naruto's mindscape and things are a lot peaceful than it was with the raging winds. The ocean is now calm, but the clouds in the sky is destroying the view and lightning is still going off. Finally you 2 got here. Both turned to the house to see Volva. Let's get this over with so I can sleep without lightning waking me up every minute. Volva said while dragging Tia behind her to get the test over with. What's up with her? Naruto asked Leviathan as she stepped outside the house. She hasn't got much sleep since she got here and I would have to agree with her. Leviathan sounded a bit cranky and grumpy. I wouldn't blame them. Naruto turned behind her as Orda shimmered into existence, showing her mastery over the wind veil. I've only been here a month and I am starting to lose my sleep. Everyone arrived to a field that had some rocks and boulders across the field. Alright, do your thing and get this over with. Volva said, pushing Tia into summoning the lightning tyrant dragon. With a gather of chakra and condensing it and shooting it into the sky, she had done her job. You didn't have to push. Tia grumbled after finishing her job. Any advice? Naruto asked, hopefully remembering when they just took off after Kushala showed up. Yeah, keep moving and strike fast. Tia said as she and everyone ran away again. At least they gave her some advice. The sky began to darken as the clouds got darker and lightning is going off every second and a half. The lightning gathered in one area and shot down to the earth, which didn't give Naruto enough time to shield herself from the blast. When the dust dropped, the dragon in front of her is the size and shape of a huge horse with a mouth that is more like a dragon. It is pure glowing white with blue engraved patterns on its body. On its head is 2 horns pointed back with a glowing white mane from its head that goes along its back and tail. Are you really a dragon? Naruto asked during the moment. I get that a lot, but yes, I am a dragon. Naruto heard from the said dragon that sounded like it has an echo in its voice. My name is Kirin and I am the lightning tyrant dragon. Prepare yourself. Kirin said just before it roared or howled or steed or whatever it sounded like as it glowed white and lightning surroundings its body before it sprang out at Naruto in a flash. Naruto was sent flying into a rock that shattered when she made contact and instantly channeled wind chakra in her tenketsu points to allow her to move fast. The fight wasn't much of a fight. It was more like a game of cat and mouse, and Naruto was the mouse. Every move she made had to count. One simple mistake in her movement and she would have to suffer a huge amount of electricity course through her body with a huge hurt from Kirin's tackle. The rocks she was using to hide were good enough to avoid a surge of electricity. Naruto began to run by each rock and put some lightning chakra into the rock and moved on to the next rock. What is she doing now? Jiraiya asked, wondering why she is wasting chakra on rocks. She figured it out. Leviathan motioning to her eyes for Jiraiya to get the message and looked over to Naruto and see that her eyes are golden slit. You must have noticed it when you were fighting her when her eyes are like that. It's the power of observation. Volva said, grinning as Naruto stood on top of a rock and stabbed it with her sword. The dragon eye has no special ability other than noticing things from the spot. Tia said as Kirin shot a lightning bolt at Naruto, but it was redirected to the sword and continued to be channeled. She will be able to recognize things that no one else will see. You saw what she did with her Riruhu technique. She doesn't have a high affinity with lightning, it was merely the observation of what she felt in training. In short, she will be learning and mastering jutsus from the spot. Tia dialogued as everyone watched as Kirin's lightning began to spread to each rock and began to ground it. She has passed this test. Kirin collapsed when all of its lightning was grounded and looked up to Naruto. Defeated in a flash. Kirin said just before it glowed white and disappeared. Naruto stood on the rock and took her sword out of it, then sheathed it. The sky began to light up again, and in the same fashion as Kirin, the lightning dragon boss appeared to Naruto. The dragon in question is twice the size as Kirin in a similar shape, but with a more agile look. When the glowing subsides and again this one didn't look like a dragon. It looked more like a wolf. Its skin is blue shape with yellow-looking armor and white fur. The yellow armor spiked out from its chest to above its shoulder blades down its back and at its tail. It also covers its front legs and back with it spiking at the knee. It spiked out from its hind legs to the outside of its tail, down to the end point of the tail. It also covered its lower jaw that spiked at the front down with an angle, pointing ahead that, and finally it has it as its two horns pointed ahead and went along the spine of its back down to its tail, which had some spikes point upwards. Its white fur covered the side of its neck that went along the back with blue plates in the front with white fur on its chest area. The front and back legs has white fur at the back of the legs. What got her attention is the claws on its legs. The claws on the paws were alright, but on the sides, it had sharp green claws on the side to add more sweeping damage. From what she is seeing, it must have earned its spot as a lightning dragon boss. Then the dragon glowed and shrank into a human adult. The light dimmed and in its place stood a man in a white complete business suit with a blue tie. He had very short white hair that looked pressed back and he had a wicked grin that looked feral and his eyes are a sickening yellow. It's about time you got to summon me. The man took a small booklet out of his pocket and opened it to read something. He whistled as he read something in the book. You broke the record of defeating Kirin in 3 minutes and 22 seconds. He updated the book and pockets it after he finished. Oh sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Jinauga, the Thunder Wolf Wyvern, and you can call me Jin. Jin said, lending out his hand in a handshake motion. Naruto took the hand and felt a sudden jolt of power entered her body that strangely felt the same when she gained power from Leviathan, Volvagia and Orda, but this time she did not pass out. As agreed, you will be able to summon the lightning dragons and me in battle, or if you feel lazy, do chores. Jin said and wrapped his right arm around Naruto's neck and walked away from the group. I have so much I need to teach. What kind of techniques are you going to teach me? Naruto was excited learning more techniques. Techniques? Jin said before he burst into laughter. Are techniques the only thing we can teach you? No, I will be teaching the world of business and if you are up to it, the world of politics. Naruto's excitement turned to dread, but she will have to learn this to become a Hokage. Real world. A few miles away from the town Naruto was sleeping in stood a shinobi that looked like a kid with a hunter nin mask and in a battle kimono. On the back of the hunter's back is a katana with a bronze 4-point star with the hilt light blue and sheath dark blue. Oddly enough, the katana was shaking violently. The hunter grabbed the sword to stop it from shaking as if to reassure it. I know, I feel it too. The hunter said as he let go of the sword as the sword stopped shaking. Whatever it is as strong as I am, if not stronger. He continued on with silence as he head towards the town. He felt a strong foe. No, I don't need their help, I need to do this on my own. He said to himself. You saying that this person is just like me? Naruto's mindscape. Tia was again looking over the memories, organizing new scrolls that she knew had something to do with business or politics. She never liked politics, it had too much talking, and she preferred a fight than speeches. I sense him. Tia heard behind her and saw that her sister behind her looking back at her. Jin has just entered Naruto's mind and started teach the art of words. Tia said as she went back to organizing the scrolls. Not him. The woman said as she felt a very familiar power from the back of her days. He's coming here with another human with dragon blood in their veins. That stopped Tia from organizing the scrolls. Who exactly has the power to bring back the dragon blood in humans? The only way to bring back the blood is to use the Biju's chakra, and we had to use the Kyuubi's chakra to do it. Tia said, not knowing another way to revive the dragon blood. No, there is another way. The ice dragon. I don't know, state the claim that it isn't legit and threaten him. Naruto said, getting tired of listening how to make an agreement. Close, if the person doesn't have proof of marriage in writing then it isn't legit because it is only in words. If it is family honor then tell them to go to hell because honor doesn't exist, it's just a belief. Jin said, telling Naruto the way of politics. As of now, honor doesn't exist. All you have is your life and that is all you own. Today's day and age, everything is done politically, that means everything is talked through and written down to solidify it. Signing your name on a piece of paper is like signing away your life. So now I have to be careful of what I sign. Naruto asked, taking these lessons to heart. Yes, make sure you read the document first and search for loopholes that you can break through or things that shouldn't be in there. Remember, there are laws that have loopholes, you just need to find them. Not everything is fortified. Jin said, giving Naruto his lesson until he saw Naruto disappear. It's morning already. It should have been morning 12 hours ago. Jin turned around to see Tia, who looked a bit peeved. What? Jin asked, not knowing what is wrong. You changed the time of Naruto's mind to be twice as long. Do you have any idea of what that will cause? Tia said, not liking what has happened. Yeah, I gave her more time for her to learn. And don't say that she will grow up too fast, she is already mature as it is for such a child, and aren't we supposed to be mature at that age? Jin said, not minding that he changed the time of Naruto's mind. Besides, I have to make sure she is prepared when she goes back to her home. Tia just sighed and began to worry when her sister is appearing more frequently and leaking out her power to Naruto. From what her sister has told her of the other method of bringing back the dragon blood is that the dragon swords must sacrifice their power to merge their blood to a human, thus reviving the dragon blood in humans. But there were only few dragons that can bring the dragon blood back. From what she remembers is that the only dragon swords that can do this is Saunga, Wind, Raijin Jaka, Fire, Raijin, Lightning, Kinkin, Earth, Yamato, Darkness, and the water dragon sword disappeared from the world. A human will have dragon blood and can wield their power in a form of a sword if the process succeeds. The problem now is who gave up their power. Saunga is not likely to give up his power since his original form is now trapped into a blade that is now known as the Kusanagi. Raijin Jaka might give up his power if the person is worthy of his power. Raijin lost his original form and is now in that despicable handle form the human gave him. Kinkin is split in two and does not have the power to revive the blood. Yamato also lost his original form, so he eats endless amount of chakra to bring himself back to his original self, but the wielder takes the chakra. The only dragon that can revive the blood is Raijin Jaka, but he is hidden from the world waiting for someone to wield him. There are many lesser dragon swords out there that has the power to bring back the blood, but to a minor degree. What kind of dragon sword has the power to bring back the blood other than the Raijin Jaka? Tia thought as she continued to think who can bring back the dragon blood. Real world. Naruto woke up with a killer headache from learning politics. She listened to Jin talk her ears out and she felt like she started to feel aged. She felt weight on her and saw Kyuga sleeping on her in her dragon form. Naruto learned that little Kyuga can deactivate the Jinjutsu and activate it whenever she wants. After she carefully picked up the hatchling and put her down on a pillow, she went to do her morning routine. When she was done, she looked at her worn-out kimono and thought of how long she has worn that kimono. With that thought she looked over her scrolls she has carried and opened it up and out came more scrolls. Sealing scrolls within scrolls is indeed hard to learn, but she learned it anyhow. One scroll she was looking for had the words clothes, sure she liked wearing kimonos, but they weren't giving her room for fights. Her battle kimono on the other hand is a different story. After she looked over the clothes she changed into a white tank shirt with a navy blue coat that has a white dragon on the back. All her clothing has a long serpentine white dragon with a pair of wings with light blue webbings of its wings and spine webbings. It was one of her favorite looking dragons she thought of. She strapped on some red fingerless gloves with bands attached on the end that has seals holding her throwing knives with the bullet seal on. She put on a navy blue pants, black sandals and putting her hair in a braid that went to her shoulder blades with her bangs on the side to finish her look. After she finished sealing up her stuff, strapping her sword between her belt and pants, waking up the hatchling she exited the door and went towards Jiraiya's room. It was later discovered that when Naruto falls asleep, she leaks out her ability that makes people uncomfortable unconsciously. It is a shame that the people in the hotel will have a terrible night because of her. Jiraiya found a way to not feel the uncomfortable feeling, and that is sleeping away from her. Sure, she sleeps alone, but she never felt alone with the dragons inside of her and her new little guardian Kyuga. On her way towards Jiraiya, which she learned is that he is in another hotel, she began to feel like something is going to happen. Not like getting a huge load of cash from Jiraiya from the book he wrote of her tests, which is surprisingly a hit series that is in its third volume. She made a lot of money from those books, and she was very surprised that it is actually a book filled with action, adventure, romance and comedy. Yeah, she read the books, after all she received special editions from Jiraiya that includes bonus material with extra smut. Anyways, what she felt is like she is going into battle, and it was exciting her. But the activation of her dragon eyes and scaring a load of people in the process, she followed her instincts as she jumped from rooftop to rooftop until she left town. Kyuga was following her and was keeping up with her in cat form. She stopped when she entered a field of mist that could blind anyone else, but she can completely see through it like a glass window. You're going to have to do better than that. Naruto said as she looked over the field and felt a presence in the field, and it wasn't someone she recognized, but it felt familiar. It was like she was sensing herself. Another one like me. That is when she heard the person's heartbeat skipped. So, not only you have dragon blood in your veins, but you felt my presence as well. The other person with dragon blood was feeling the strength he felt of the person he searched for. The woman is as strong as him if not stronger. First, he sensed 4 strong elements inside of her, and the only thought is which one he doesn't have to worry about. Second, he saw her eyes and knew that he will have trouble fighting her. Third, she was giving off waves of power around her that would scare anyone else that doesn't have dragon blood in their veins. And lastly, the sword on her side is indeed as strong as his, but not awakened like his, the only advantage he has against her, but he can tell she doesn't need it. He jumped out of the tree he was hiding on when a ball of pink-red flames was aimed at him. Balva tried to teach me plasma with fire and wind. She forgot that combination creates inferno, and I needed lightning to do plasma with the other two. I'm only working on the basics for the medium-level elements, and she tried to teach me the high-level elements. Naruto thought as she looked upon the person she was looking for. The first thing she noticed of him is the sword in his hands. It looked like a normal katana, but she felt something powerful within the blade, and it felt like the one on her side hip. I don't know what you want or why you came looking for me, but Naruto said as she unsheathed her katana on her side and entered the current stance. You intrigued me. Both stood looking at each other looking for an opening. The hunter was having a problem, the woman's stance is loose and open, but he knew that it was a trap. He thought that the stance was a counter-attack stance, but he thought better as he realized that is an all-purpose stance. Naruto was looking over her opponent's stance and noticed it was completely flawless. No openings or weakness whatsoever. The clothing the hunter was wearing is a battle kimono that is made to be worn during cold weather. He had his hair in a bun and long bangs on the side of his Kiri hunter mask. She knew that the mask was a disguised because of the bloodline purge in Kiri, and the person before her has the blood of dragons in his veins, so it was logical to search for a disguise. Naruto was looking at her opponent until she was forced into her mind. What gives? Naruto asked as she looked over to Tia who was wearing a battle kimono like her and Leviathan, and she didn't notice that this Tia was taller. What gives Tia? I was in the middle of a fight. Tia chuckled and Naruto noticed that Tia doesn't chuckle like that or chuckles at all. My, you're feisty. The woman said as she looked over Naruto. You have grown and gotten stronger over the years. When I was first handed to you, I thought you were someone who would just use my power to fight your battles. Naruto now knew who this woman is. You're that sword Tia gave me. The woman nodded her head as she stood in front of Naruto. I gave you many chances to use my power during your tests, but not once did you accept my call. Naruto remembered all the times she felt power surge through her from the sword during her fights, but she did not take it. Why? Because it is not my power. The woman raised an eyebrow. I wanted to fight with my own power. I didn't want to have power that isn't mine. If I take power that isn't mine, then I will just be weak and dependent on that power, not ever noticing that I will be getting weaker over time. Naruto answered as the woman smiled at her and she began to glow white. Good answer. If you have ever taken my power during your tests, then you would have failed and have the dragon blood sealed away. Naruto was shocked that she would have had her power taken away from her if she accepted her call. Tia gave me to you to see if you were trustworthy to have the power of dragons in your veins, and from what I have seen, you are worthy of our power. Tia said as Naruto began to disappear. Now that you passed my test then I will loan you my power, remember my name for you will need me to fight with you in our future battles together. My name is. Naruto returned to the current battle and saw that she and the hunter were still in their stance. She thought out the outcome of this fight and saw only 2 options. 1, it will be a long battle and 2, it will end in a flash. The second one is more likely to fail since both were charging at each other and trading attacks with their swords. The hunter noticed that his opponent's attacks were fluid and precise. He swung his sword horizontal after he parried his opponent's sword away. He saw that it was a clean cut to the face, but his opponent backflipped underneath his sword and turned around to attack his open back which he blocked. The fight went on a while as he had many times to get an opening, but she fluidly avoided it and almost got him as well. He tried a sweep swing and she ducked underneath it and she does a sweep swing at his open torso, but he narrowly avoided it. Naruto was in a rhythm on the fight. The first thing she noticed about this fight is that he was as strong as her in strength, fast as her and experienced as her. The only problem she saw is that he was finding flaws in her stance as she found flaws in his. So with a burst of speed she did a vertical cut up to his face and only sliced his mask in half. The hunter jumped away from the attack, but she completed her task as the mask split open showing his face, and her suspicion was confirmed. She wasn't suspicious of his pretty face that would mistake him as a woman, but she knew from his smell that he is a man. No, she was looking at his eyes, they were icy blue with a cat-like slit and from what she can see that they were his dragon eyes. So you are just like me. Naruto said confirming that he has dragon eyes. Man, this is going to be difficult if he has those eyes. The hunter looked like he was having an inner debate as he had a hard look in his eyes. I'm sorry, I will have to do this. Naruto raised an eyebrow and raised the other when she noticed him gathering chakra into his sword as he jumped into the air. Sit upon the frozen heaven. Haimaru. He shouted out as his sword shot an ice blue dragon with red eyes at Naruto. Naruto instantly sheathed her sword and gathered chakra into her sword as the ice dragon came at her and she didn't think she will do this right away in the fight. Slice through the heavens. Exilian. She shouted as she sliced at the dragon as a bright light was released from her sword and sliced through the ice dragon and falling apart. The hunter's sword changed a bit as the blade is a bit longer with a crescent-shaped blade attached to a chain that is attached to his sword while Naruto's sword turned into an akatana with a white ribbon attached to the guard. Haimaru, now where have I heard that before? Naruto asked herself as she felt like her sword was holding her hand. Exilian. Yes, it is me. I did say we were going to fight together and you can call me Excel. Exilian told Naruto as she felt power surge through her. Since we are fighting together I guess we can some of my power. Just don't give me too much of it. Naruto thought as she saw the hunter looked a bit wary. So she too wields a dragon sword and by the looks of it, the sword gave its power to her. The hunter thought as he felt his sword shaking, but he held it tight from shaking. No, she did not sacrifice her power. The voice in the hunter's head spoke to him. What do you mean Haimaru? You said that the only way to bring back the dragon blood is to sacrifice your power. The hunter said talking to his sword. Yes, that is the only way I know how, but the sword she is wielding isn't known to humans because of the power it possesses. The voice that is now known as Haimaru said to the hunter. If she is holding that sword then it is very unwise if we continue on with this fight if you want to be an enemy of dragons. So this is what Haimaru had been doing all this time. Exilian said in Naruto's mind as she saw the hunter sheathed his sword, but she kept her guard up. Relax kid, if I remember correctly Haimaru is very respectful and wouldn't want to betray his own kind. Who are you? Naruto asked as she kept a hand on her sword in its sheath and she noticed that her sword is now an akatana and is staying like that and it is a bit longer. Haku. Just Haku, yours? Haku asked. Naruto thought of a last name and remembered the number of enemies her parents had. Sure she could bring back the Namikaze clan and have Iwa assassins come after her every day, but it is too much hassle to kill them. Then there is her mother's maiden name Uzumaki. She is smart enough to know that her mother has some enemies and people might put two and two together to figure out she is the offspring of two powerful shinobi. So she figured she could go with a new name and she always wanted to start her own clan and this is the perfect time to start. Ryu, Naruto Ryu. Maelstrom Dragon, fitting name. Haku said causing Naruto to blush a bit but she hid in it but Haku's dragon eyes saw it. So how did you become a holder of dragon blood? Haku asked as Naruto thought of how she became what she is now. You know what Naruto said as Haku stepped closer to hear. I seriously have no idea. This caused Haku to face drop to the ground. But I do know that they came to me and started testing me. Testing her? Haku heard Haimaru said in his mind. I see, they are seeing if she is the one to bring back the dragons to this world and from what I sense, she is nearly there. What do you mean about that? Haku asked a dragon and wondered what made this girl important. I told you that dragons used to roam these lands until they were sealed away. Haimaru said to Haku as he saw a cat roaming around the mist using its nose to find its master. His dragon eyes were able to see through the genjutsu and he saw a dragon. You see, she has already obtained a guardian. Now remember that I told you that the dragon blood vanished and was never to appear again. Haku mentally nodded and saw Naruto blew the mist away and picked up the dragon in disguise and petted her. There are ways to bring back the blood, and that is to sacrifice our power to bring it back, but there is a problem. What kind of problem is that? Haku began to question. Is that when we sacrifice our power you gain our power? Since I am the Ice Dragon King, then you will be strong with ice techniques with water and wind just as strong, but everything else you will have to work on and it will be difficult, but you might be able to learn them all in time. Haku nodded knowing that learning other elements is difficult. She on the other hand has been chosen. One of the dragon bosses saw potential in her to will all elements, and I can see she has control over 4 elements. One more test and she has completed the tests that were given to her until the Dragon King sees her if she is worthy of their power. Haku had to suppress a shiver that crawled up his spine, and he is cold-blooded. He just realized that this person in front of him is the matriarch of dragons. That is why he had a shocked expression when he saw a huge sword which he recognized as Kubikiri HMCHM sliced at the girl's side that shot her away from Haku. Damn it Haku, if you wanted to get into a fight you should have brought me along. Haku did hand seals that created an ice mirror in front of Zabuza that protected him from a torrent of pink-red flames that soon began to break through the ice, so he grabbed Zabuza and Shunshin out of the way just before the flames broke through the ice. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Haku shouted to Zabuza and turned towards where Naruto was shot to and saw that she is completely fine minus the cut-up clothing that is repairing itself. What are you talking about Haku, she didn't seem that strong. Zabuza said just before he felt a breeze and turned to his right to see the girl that should be across the field and not beside him with an outstretched hand to his face that looked like a backhand that made him flew into a tree and broke through it. Okay, she is strong than she appears. Zabuza said just before he passed out. I'm sorry that he jumped the gun. Haku apologized and smelt blood from her, but he couldn't find a wound other than where Zabuza struck. He actually pierced through my skin. Naruto thought as she glared at the man who pierced through her skin, shallow it was, but he pierced it. And that was pure strength. It's a good thing I created the repair seals for clothing. Naruto thought as her clothes finished fixing itself and cleaned off the blood that came from the wound she healed. Friend of yours? She asked with a look in her eye that says you're taking responsibility of this. Haku hung his head and nodded. Little Kyuga was hissing at the down man as she was ready to pounce at him, but Naruto picked her up from attacking the man. So how did you get dragon blood? Naruto asked and saw him look away with a look of sadness in his eyes. You don't have to tell me. No, I trust you enough to tell you. Haku said as his icy blue eyes turned to chocolate brown eyes. It started when I had a family. Naruto had a hard look on her face as she was hearing his words of what happened from him playing with his bloodline to his father, calling in bloodline hunters and killing his mother to how he called for help and Heimermeru answered his call and killing everyone around him along with his father. From what she heard about Heimermeru is that he fell in love with a human a long time ago and his blood flows through his views. The Ice King made Haku's blood pure dragon, making him stronger. He told her how he met Zabuza, a funny story of him freezing his arms and legs in a block of ice and beat the crap out of him. Later on he roamed the land with Zabuza in tow. The man figured he can use him to kill the Mizukage, but he was too kind to kill someone, so he followed him around to get away from Kiri hunters. And here he is talking to Naruto as he was petting the little dragon. So you have been roaming around the elemental country for the last 6 years. Haku nodded. With that man and his 2 subordinates. Naruto pointed to the unconscious Zabuza who is still underneath a tree, and Haku nodded again. And you went to kill me when you thought that I was abusing or stealing power of dragons. Haku shamefully nodded his head as Naruto nodded too, and both entered a moment of silence, minus Kyuga's purring under Haku's petting and scratching. That is until Naruto's stomach growled along with Haku, causing both to blush. You want to go get something to eat? Haku nodded and headed towards town with Kyuga in his arms. What about him? Naruto asked pointing at Zabuza. He got himself there and he will be alright. Haku blatantly said not liking to fight Zabuza's battles. Naruto just cast a worried glance and just shrugged as she went to town with Haku. With Jiraiya, the man didn't bother to search for the dragon tamer right away, knowing she can look after herself. The only people he can think of that could defeat her is him, Tsunade, Salamander Hanzo, Old Man Sandame, Orochimaru and the rest of the cages. But he thinks that she will put up a devastating fight before going down. Where is she? Jiraiya asked himself as he searched for the girl, since he has to take Naruto away from town to start learning earth manipulation. That is until he felt the uneasiness and figured that was Naruto, but he noticed it was a lot strong than it was yesterday. He followed the signs of people being uneasy and found the source to be an open grill restaurant. When he entered the building he noticed the place was empty minus 2 people eating and talking together with a cat underneath the table, eating a plate of fish. So you defeated Zabuza in an all-out fight and he is your subordinate ever since? Naruto asked as she took a bite out her spicy pork. Yeah, he's been asking me to kill the Mizukage, but I never liked the idea of killing. If the need for me to kill, then I will kill. Haku said as he grabbed a sushi he was frying and took a bite out of it. Any plans for the future? Naruto asked as she finished her meal. Nothing as of now since I will live for a very long time until someone kills me. Naruto nodded her head in agreement, knowing she has her whole life ahead of her. I see you have met someone to talk to. Both turned to see Jiraiya at the end of the table. Oh hey Jiraiya, this is Haku, and he has the same blood as me. Naruto said as she picked up Kyuga, who was licking her paws when she finished with her meal. Anyways, I was going to ask him to have an all-out fight with him if that is alright with you. Naruto asked Haku, and he nodded, wanting to fight someone who can stand on equal grounds with him. Jiraiya was a bit worried that there is someone that is like Naruto, but the kid seemed pure-hearted and kind, so he just went along with it. Just keep an eye on Zabuza. Haku said as he took a final bite out of his last sushi. He tends to jump the gun, and he already did attack Naruto-chan thinking she was an enemy. Naruto had a blush on her face, while Jiraiya had a hard look and noted to keep an eye on Zabuza. He already knew who this Zabuza is and made sure he isn't a threat to Naruto. When the two entered an empty forest, both stood on an opposite end. Any ground rules? Haku asked as Naruto thought it through before she unstrapped her akatana and rested on the ground. No swords. No swords. Naruto said as she activated her dragon eyes along with Haku. Jiraiya was sitting on top of a tree watching the fight that is soon to come. He felt another pair of eyes looking at the two. He looked over and saw a beat-up Zabuza. You got on her bad side? Jiraiya asked and saw him shook his head no. She just backhanded me. Zabuza said and felt a shadow of pain on his jaw. Jiraiya whistled. You got lucky if she only backhanded you. Zabuza nodded and did not want to get on that woman's bad side, then his eyes looked serious. But more importantly, Jiraiya saw his hard look as he put up his guard as Zabuza reached into his pouch. Can I have your autograph? Zabuza said, holding out one of the books he wrote on Naruto's test, and this one was a limited edition water series. Jiraiya took out his signing pen and took the book. Naruto and Haku stood like they did with their sword fight. They waited and waited and waited until they both heard Zabuza yelling out. Get on with it already. Both sent a glare at Zabuza which shut him up. Okay, let's get this over with. Naruto said just before she took a deep breath as Haku to have taken a deep breath as he gathered something in the back of his throat. Naruto unleashed a pink-red flame that is inferno as Haku blew out a stream of snow and ice. Both attacks struck middle, but Haku's snow stream melted under the heat of Naruto's inferno. Inferno. It is the next level of flames as Naruto mastered fire, and since she gained wind she is unintentionally using inferno when she is using her dragon breath. The inferno started to overpower Haku, and he substituted in time to avoid getting burned. Naruto looked around the field and noticed a shroud of mist, and she knew that it wasn't meant to blind her as she felt a sudden coldness as the area began to freeze. Her clothing began to get frozen, but her skin remained unharmed, but she figured that someone else would be frozen by now. Not a bad technique. Naruto said as she took a deep breath and she breathed a thick shroud of fog and did a 360 spin while blowing out a fog. Haku noticed that the Naruto's fog is keeping her from freezing as he sensed heat from her fog. Boil. Boil style. Solid fog jutsu. I practiced that jutsu so much I don't need the seals to control this fog. Naruto said as she did hand seals. Boil style. Hidden in the fog jutsu. Naruto called out as the dangerous fog that could melt you kept Naruto safe from being frozen, began to spread across the field, fighting over the ice mist. After some time both mist and fog cancelled each other out, showing the forest is completely soaked, which is a good thing to both fighters. Naruto did some hand seals along with Haku doing hand seals. Water style. Twin-headed water dragon missile. Ice style. Ice dragon missile. Haku's ice dragon fought one of Naruto's water dragons as it froze in place as the other went towards Haku, but it too froze in place just in front of Haku. Naruto just sighed knowing connected water freeze together as she began doing more hand seals. Water style. Leviathan's wrath. Haku watched as a huge water dragon appeared behind Naruto, and since she used a boss technique, then he will use one as well. Ice style. Heimerun Meru. The same kind of ice dragon that he used with his sword manifested itself behind Haku. Naruto just figured that is was a just-in-case technique if Haku doesn't have his sword with him in a fight. You can summon your sword's dragon without the sword. Naruto asked as Haku nodded. Heimerun Meru wanted me to learn his techniques without the sword and I just mastered this a while ago. Haku stated and seemed proud that he mastered one of Heimerun Meru's techniques. Both Leviathan and Heimerun Meru flew at each other fighting for dominance, but Leviathan being a water dragon, froze and Heimerun Meru broke through the frozen dragon and continued on its path towards Naruto as she took a deep breath and unleashed a huge tongue of pink-red flames at the ice dragon. The flames was able to stop the ice dragon, so Naruto stopped with her attack and kept her guard up, knowing she let Haku get time to do a jutsu. True enough, she was surrounded by water senbons and all struck her by every angle, but she poofed out of existence. Damn. Haku cursed knowing that he gave himself away. Damn right. Haku turned and saw Naruto with white lightning in her hands. Riruhu. Naruto shot the railgun attack at Haku and made contact that caused Haku to shatter into bits of icicle pieces, meaning that the Haku she hit is an ice clone. Naruto cursed as Haku got away. Straight. Naruto turned around to be encased in a water prison by Haku. Got ya. Haku held the imprisoned Naruto in the water bubble as the girl was thrashing inside the water prison trying to break out, but Haku put extra chakra into the water holding her in the water prison from what he is feeling as the water prison began to break apart, but with a bit of ice manipulation, the outside of the water prison froze, making it harder to break out. After a while Naruto stopped thrashing around and just pouted before admitting defeat. Haku released Naruto as she willed the water out of her soaked clothing. You won that round but you won't win the next one. Naruto exclaimed as she turned away and pouted, leaving Haku confused when he heard the words next one. Little Kyuga walked up to Naruto and she picked up the hatchling and cuddled with the little hatchling. Alright you two since we know who is smarter. Jiraiya said earning a death glare by Naruto and a hiss from the little hatchling. Don't look at me like that, from what I seen, he has the advantage with his ice jutsu. Naruto had to admit that Haku has the advantage with his mastery with ice techniques. Sure she can learn ice techniques, but he will have a greater control with it. Her boil and inferno is a plus on her side, but she has less control with them. With her inferno she is on square one with manipulating inferno because she can make a tornado of fire easily and it is a lot harder with inferno. Her fog is mediocre as of now and she still needs practice and she hasn't started with ice manipulation yet. Since she got lightning now she can work with storm which is wind and lightning, chaos which is fire and lightning, and last is cloud. Tia had a hard time explaining how cloud is an element, all she said is that clouds are made out of water vapors and lightning is used to bring them all in a mass. It was too hard to understand, but from what she said there is a cloud dragon that could help her in manipulation when she is ready. Naruto just sighed knowing she is going to need more training which she can't help but think don't I have enough training. She just shook her head, admitting she is going to need more training. I need more training. Naruto exclaimed as Jiraiya just shook his head. Don't you have enough training as it is? Jiraiya asked as Naruto answered with a low groan, telling him she had the same thought. Well I have to thank you. Naruto has a confused look as did Haku. I just got myself a new informant. Both Haku and Naruto looked over at Zabuza. So you became his informant? Haku asked as Zabuza nodded. I can't run from the hunter nins forever boy. Me and the brothers need help in avoiding them. Zabuza told Haku as he nodded knowing that he helped the trio from getting killed many times. I guess I could help make sure you don't get yourselves killed when I'm gone. Haku said missing Naruto's sad look wanting to have him around a lot more. Do you have a way for us to contact each other Naruto-chan? Haku asked causing Naruto to perk up and blush at the prefix of her name and nodded quickly. She put Kyuga on the ground and did hand seals as she bit a thumb. Summoning jutsu. Naruto slammed her hand to the ground and out came Tia in her Liz-Ha dragon form. Not the small lizard, but an actual dragon as tall as Jiraiya. Her serpentine appearance flowed around Naruto as she eyed the boy in front of her. Is this the boy with dragon blood? Tia asked as Naruto nodded not asking why she appears in a bigger form, her already knows that he has dragon blood. The white dragon glided towards Haku and coiled around him as she was examining him. So Heimermeru has been living in his descendants for the past 1,000 years I see. Haku felt a bit uncomfortable with the white serpentine coiled around him with her claws examining him. If Heimermeru choose you then I guess you are okay with having this power, since he knows how to read people's character and soul. Tia said as she flowed towards Naruto as she did hand seals and summoned the summoning scroll. From the look in your eye you want him to sign this scroll. Tia looked a bit amused seeing her nodding her head not trusting her voice. From what I remember you want to change something in here as well. My name? Naruto said as she took the scroll and opened up to see her name changed from Uzumaki to Ryu. You planned this didn't you? She asked the dragon as the said dragon was looking at its claws, filling them to make them look sharper. You need to ask. Tia said as blew small flames at her claws to get rid of the remains that were filled away. Naruto just shook her head and walked towards Haku with the opened up scroll and rolled it across the ground. You can use a summon to message me, and since you have Heimermeru you will be able to summon water and wind dragons without getting tested. Naruto said earning a nod from Tia since the boy has the Ice Dragon King in his veins. Haku nodded as he bit his thumb and signed his name Haku on the scroll. No family name? Tia asked and Haku shook his head no. Alright here are the hand seals. Naruto said after she rolled it up and tossed it at Tia. Summoning jutsu. Naruto shouted as the was engulfed by a huge mass of smoke. When the smoke cleared she is sitting on top of a huge dragon that Jiraiya recognized as Ortolagi, the harbinger of storm, and she is twice the size of Jiraiya. So you actually summoned a dragon that isn't Tia. The wind boss said as she looked over her back and saw the girl sheepishly rub her neck. Sorry, I never had a chance to summon dragons before. Naruto said and saw the dragon nodding in agreement. True, you never had a chance to summon us or needed our help fighting yet, but it is good to have some fresh air. Orda said as she laid down on the grass as Naruto sat on the hunch of her back. Your turn, Haku. Naruto called over as Orda looked over the boy, putting pressure on the said boy. Haku was again uncomfortable with the attention and did the hand seals. Summoning jutsu. When the smoke cleared, Haku is standing on a huge dragon that Naruto recognized as Kushala de Aura, and she is 3 stories tall and looked fierce as ever. Summoned. Kushala said as she looked around the area and looked over at her back and saw a male human on her back but smelt the scent of dragon in his veins. She looked over at the wind dragon boss and back to the summoner. Summon me when I am needed to fight. Kushala said as the said dragon left the human word to the dragon realm and Haku gracefully landed on his feet. You'll have to forgive Kushala, she takes her position seriously. Orda said as she looked over Haku. So you're Heimer's heir. His heir? Naruto and Haku asked the same time, earning a blush from both of them. Heimer chose him to take his place as Ice Dragon King and he is the only Ice Dragon. Tia said as she took a look at Haku's sword and examined it. You do realize this sword is like a medium to control your power, right? Tia asked the boy and saw him shook his head no and she just sighed. Well, when Heimer gave you his power to give you dragon blood, but what he actually did is made you his heir. Haku just thought about it as Heimer gave him advice while growing up. As of now he is giving you advice before he finishes his job with passing his knowledge to his heir before he passes on. Heimer-sama lived for a very long time and he must be tired. Orda said as she continued to enjoy the gentle breeze and coolness of the grass. Anyways, try again, but when you try summoning, put more wind chakra into your summon and make it sharper and faster, rather than just regular wind chakra. Orda instructed the new summoner. Summoning jutsu. Haku did as instructed and was again engulfed in smoke. When it cleared, Haku is sitting on a familiar dragon that looked like Orda, but smaller, as in Jiraiya, tall with an extra foot but colored light blue that looked like a glider version. Hey, I'm actually summoned. The said dragon said out loud that sounded like a female and looked around and saw Orda. Oh, hey mother. You got summoned too. The said dragon asked that sounded excited. Good to see you, Oikis. How has your little brother been doing? Orda asked the wind dragon that concentrates on its speed rather than its attacks. I'm not sure little is the right word, mother, he is 3-4 times my size and has been destroying the place ever since you were called for duty. Oikis said, forgetting she has her summoner on her back. It's good to catch up, mother, but I have to get back to make sure that idiot doesn't destroy the home. Oikis said as she looked behind her back to look up at her summoner. Summon me if you need to get somewhere in a heartbeat. Haku nodded as Oikis poofed out of existence and Haku landing on his feet gracefully again. If you want to summon Jinpyu, you just need to make your wind chakra slower and duller. He is more on the destruction side rather than speed, and you already know how to summon Kushala, so that is about it. If you just want to summon a messenger dragons, then use less wind chakra. Orda told Haku as she stood up with Naruto on her back. As much as I like to be summoned, I have to get back and plan for the girls' training. Orda looked over to Naruto. Training in storm is going to be harder than wind, so you better be ready. Leviathan said she is going to start teaching you ice, and Jin said something about learning how to read people's expressions and predict the human mind. Orda said as Naruto groaned, knowing she will fall asleep learning politics, and she learned that she could fall asleep in the mind that Tia told her she was exhausted mentally. Well, I'll see you later. Since I am not needed, I'll head back now. Tia said as she poofed out of existence. The area entered an uncomfortable silence which made everyone feel uncomfortable. Okay. Jiraiya said, ending the silence which Naruto and Haku were grateful for. As much as I like company, I need to take Naruto to finish her training. Naruto nodded, knowing she needs to finish up with her last element that she will learn from Jiraiya, along with sealing. I'll leave you two alone. Jiraiya said, mentally thinking about the twist in his books based off Naruto's tests. She won't mind if I add a twist in the story. Zabuza wisely left the area and went to retrieve the demon brothers Gozu and Maizu. Naruto stood still, not knowing what to say as the silence built up. Haku-kun, Naruto-chan, I both said the same time, causing them to stop and blush. Well, Naruto blushed when she added the prefix to Haku's name. You first, both talked the same time, again causing their blush to deepen. I'll go first. Haku said as Naruto nodded while blushing. Do you want to go out sometime later on? Haku asked with a light blush as Naruto went full-blown red, getting asked out in the future, and she nodded her head rapidly. Well, I'll see you later then. Haku went up to Naruto and kissed her on the cheek and went after Zabuza. Naruto is now full-blown red as steam was coming off her skin, and Kyuga tilted her head to the side as she looked up to her mistress, confused with a weird expression on her master's face. She didn't know what was with her. First she wanted to kill that guy in the first place, then it went to being intrigued with him, then she was curious with him, then she wanted to fight him, and lastly she is acting weird around him. It wasn't the uncomfortable feeling when people are around her, but a feeling that she has never felt before. It confused her a bit, but she knew one thing. she wants to be near him. With a shake of her head to get her thoughts clear and losing her red color, she picked up the little hatchling and went off towards Jiraiya to finish off her training from Jiraiya.